What's good, IB Nation? Welcome to another edition of the Irish Breakdown podcast / postgame show. I'm Vince D'Addario, that's Trevor Trowbridge and Sean Davis, and we are here to talk about Notre Dame's 31-24 win over Louisville. Good win for Notre Dame. Obviously, they were in control the entire game. I've never felt more nervous about a 10-point lead in my entire existence on this planet. But Notre Dame pulls it out, ends up winning by 7 points. I have a lot of questions about a lot of things, but also a lot of good feelings about the fact that Notre Dame got out of this thing with a W. This will be our last post-game show for the month because obviously Notre Dame's on a bye week and it's the end of September. But I'm always happy when Notre Dame gets a W going into a bye week because we have 2,700 shows to do between now and the next game. And it's nice to talk about a win, okay? And Notre Dame needed this win, fellas. They needed it big time, and they got it. And it wasn't always the prettiest thing on the planet, no doubt about that, but there was a lot of good. There was way more good than there was bad, and we'll get into our gut reactions about, the entire game, how we feel about it, and all of those different things. Then, of course, we will jump into the offense and the defense, and maybe we'll give out some game balls. Maybe we won't. We'll see how the show goes. And if you've got a question, if you've got a comment that you want us to, throw up on the screen, you got to throw us a super chat, and we will get to that, by the end of the show. So, fellas, again, Notre Dame wins 31-24. I'm excited. I'm happy. I had many spirited debates with some fans in the tailgating lot on my way to the press box, which is always fun. Just always gets my juices flowing. But again, Notre Dame gets the win. So gut reactions, fellas. We'll go clockwise as we always do. Trevor, your thoughts on Notre Dame's win today that moves them to 4-1 on the season?
Yeah, fellas, we talked about it all week. And Notre Dame had to find a way to win today. Louisville won. Let me get this out of the way. Hats off to Louisville because they played a great game.
Sure.
They played hard. They played well. We talked a lot about Notre Dame showing up in this game with a little bit of passion and a little bit of fire. Between all of the adversity that they had faced this year, between all of the criticism that they heard this year and the team that was coming into town, I was hoping to see a little bit of that. And I did, especially in the first quarter today. I know we're going to get a little bit more granular offensively, defensively. But overall, I thought everybody played with immense passion today. A lot of things to clean up. But I'm happy with the win, guys, at the end of the day. And a good top 15 win.
It's a good team. Look, my favorite thing, guy, and I hate to cut you off, and I'll spin it right back to you, Trevor. My favorite comments, in post-game right now, right, are, somebody said something about, why are we excited about a mid-tier ACC win and all of these other things. And these are the very same people that were predicting Notre Dame to lose this game. And so and again, those are people that probably aren't ever going to be happy, and that's fine. But Louisville is not a mid-tier ACC team. They're a top 15 team in the country. They're a good football team. And if nobody was paying attention last year to what Jeff Brom did at Louisville, including a big win over Notre Dame, he just reloads, man. He knows how to use the transfer portal. He knows how to call an offense. Like, this team is a good team. They're not a national championship contending team, and nobody on this show is going to say that, but they're a good team. They're a top 15 team, and Notre Dame beat them. And they were ahead the vast majority of the game, right? I mean, yes, it was tenuous at times. There's no doubt about it, but they had the lead the majority of the game. So, let's not downplay who Louisville is now that the game is over and Notre Dame won, because a lot of people were telling me that Louisville was going to wipe the floor with Notre Dame. So I just wanted to get that out there. But go ahead, Trevor. Sorry.
No, I agree with you 100%. Look, Notre Dame had multiple opportunities to fold today. They did. And it was almost Texas A&M-esque that type of game where when you need something to happen, for the most part, it happened, right? Like I said, we're going to dive more into what needs to get cleaned up. I sat and I wrote down an entire drive chart for offense and defense throughout the entire game. A lot of stuff to clean up, right? But battling adversity was huge today. On defense, you lose Boubacar Traore. Christian Gray doesn't go. A true freshman starting at corner. Ben Morrison is out for a handful of series. So Jordan Clark rotates to the field corner.
Yeah.
Right? On offense, starting quarterback gets banged up. You have early turnovers. A little bit of that Notre Dame PTSD in me. Watch Devin Ford fumble the opening kickoff, and I was like, here we go. Here we go. This is going to be a long day. And the offense responded the best that they've responded this entire season. Going off 3 straight drives and 3 straight touchdowns. If people are upset with that, I don't know what to tell you guys. Right? Progress is being made. And to Vince's point, I'm not saying that Notre Dame is ready to go compete for the national championship right now. I'm not saying they are poised after beating 15th ranked Louisville to go on a deep playoff run. But they're taking the necessary steps to get there. And that's all we can ask.
Correct.
There are things that need corrected. Let me emphasize that. I'm not saying Notre Dame played a perfect game, because if this was a perfect game, the final score wouldn't have been 31-24, and Notre Dame wouldn't have had 60 total yards of offense in the second and third quarter combined. There's a lot of things that need improving, but I'm happy with the win. Gut reaction, I think the kids battled today. I think there are coaching adjustments that need made schematically, personnel grouping-wise, which we're going to dive into. But getting a top 15 win at home when 3 weeks ago you couldn't defend your home turf against a MAC team, that's progress, and I'm here for it. Gut reaction.
Sean, hit it.
Yo, Trevor just covered just about everything, so I'm just going to go ahead and add this little piece on the end. Figuring it out. They're figuring it out. That is encouraging to me. There are a lot of things that we can nitpick about from the coaching staff, both sides of the ball, but I think this team at large is figuring out how to win and how to become a great team. I think Marcus Freeman mentioned that in the post game when he was noticeably still upset talking on the field. And he said, man, we have to be consistent. We just have to be consistent. And this game was a perfect example of how inconsistent they are as a team. They can look great at moments, and then at moments they will have you shaking your head saying, what the heck is going on? And you can see that. I love what I saw from him in the midst of this game as far as accountability, holding Jadarian Price accountable, holding other players that made mistakes accountable, right? Not just the young players, but now some of the older veterans, holding them accountable and saying, you know what? This is why we recruit the way we recruit. This is why we have the depth that we have now. Let's go rock. Because we can win with or without you guys. If you don't want to lock in and be focused and not turn the ball over, not make mistakes, we're having a game-defining drive to close them out so they don't get the ball back. And we started off with a false start from one of our veterans. And it's just like we can't have those types of situations. And you can see he's visibly getting upset with those situations popping up over and over and over again for his program. And so hopefully this week off, as Trevor said, will lead to the things that need to be cleaned up, being cleaned up. But I don't expect perfection coming out of this break. I expect them to be a little better. And then I expect them to be a little bit better going into November. That's the pie in the sky point of view, right?
Sure.
But once again, Stanford coming to town is going to be another litmus test. Have you learned your lesson? Are you going to prove once again that you can handle success, that you can get better, that you can be focused, right? They won't have certain guys. Unfortunately, I don't want to speak on guys until we officially hear what's transpired with them physically. But you do have guys like Josh Burnham coming back. You do have Gabriel Rubio coming back. And kudos to you guys. Said you felt uncomfortable. I felt very comfortable at the end of the game because the game was in the hands of the defense. That's why I felt comfortable. I was like, you know what? Louisville doesn't have any timeouts. It's Al Golden in this defense. I wouldn't want to have any other unit on the field at this point in this game other than the Notre Dame defense. And they closed it out, And I think both teams, it seemed like both teams early on were just sporadic, like mistakes on both sides, fumbles, mental mistakes. And then when the game settled down, it turned into what you expect, a hard-hitting physical football game with both teams doing what they do. And it came down to Notre Dame just making the necessary plays, right? So people want me to be negative. I'm not being negative, man. A win is a win. We told you 2 weeks ago, if you didn't realize this was going to be a gritty, ugly season for the rest of the season, I don't know what else to tell you. This is not a pretty football team. It's not. So you might as well take the medicine, take the W, take the week off, and come back ready to cheer your squad on. That's it. You can nitpick. I'm sure Brian and Vince will do a lot of nitpicking tomorrow when they break down the film and talk about it. As of tonight, ladies and gentlemen, take a deep breath and enjoy a win over a top 15 team. That's it. Enjoy the win.
Completely agree with you. It was a sigh of relief once they turned them over on downs there at the end, obviously being a one-score game. Let me ask you guys this, because as I'm driving home, I'm listening to the game on the radio, right, during the fourth quarter, and they have the fumble that then became an incomplete pass. I didn't have a chance to see it. Can you guys tell me, neutrally, what you saw and if that was a forward pass or if that was a fumble?
Yeah, it was an incomplete pass. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
He had full control of the ball. His arm was going forward.
Okay.
It was.
Okay. Because at that point, that would have sealed the game, obviously, at that moment, in that moment, obviously. So I was just curious because I didn't have a chance to see it. And of course, I'm listening to the Notre Dame guys. And of course, they are saying, that's a fumble. That's a fumble, So, I was just curious. I didn't want to dwell on if it was the correct call. But I will also say, when we're talking about calls and we are talking about reviews and all of these things, I felt like the first few games, man, we were kind of flying through. Not a lot of reviews, not a lot of stoppages of play. And then all of a sudden today, it was like the refs just brought this game to a screeching halt when it came to reviews and all of these other things. Holy cow, did they affect the flow of the game, frankly, when it came to a lot of those things. But and again, I don't want to dwell on the refs. I'm not saying they made the right or the wrong calls. It's just like it felt like it was being stopped a lot in this game. Did you guys get that feeling as well?
Yeah, I think there's a handful of different reasons as to why the game flow continuously was interrupted. Some of it's a little bit conspiracy theory-esque. Some of it was very,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Sean, you got anything on that one?
No, I just think it was just, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm with you. I see people in the chat. That broadcast is just, I'm thinking and I feel you should have a pro Notre Dame broadcast on your TV, and they don't have it right now. They just don't. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing. But, the game flow, this is something that I've watched throughout college football. It just seems like they cut and made rules to speed up the game. And somehow, some way, the game has gotten slower in certain aspects, right? It's confusing, but I agree with you. In certain aspects, it seemed like a very slow game. Mm-hmm. And man, look, that was a good look. There's been some great college football this year. That's all I'll say. Whether it's pretty ugly, it's been some great college football, and Notre Dame Louisville was another really good college football game. So
yeah. Agreed. It obviously was not. This was not a one-sided game by any stretch of the imagination. Both teams were trading blows. The turnovers were extremely important in this game. Fumbles. I mean, there was 5 total fumbles in this game. 4 of those 5 ended up being turnovers. Right. I mean, those were game-changing moments, obviously, and points off turnovers and all of those different things. I mean, there were, 17 points off turnovers, I want to say, total. But those were game-changing moments, and it started off with the opening kickoff, right? I mean, it was game-changing, and so they have to do a better job. But I do agree about the accountability piece. I think that you were talking about that, Sean. I mean, look, Jadarian Price fumbled the ball in a really bad moment, a really tough moment, and he didn't come back on the field. And Devin Ford obviously fumbled the ball on that opening kickoff. He wasn't back returning kicks after that. They had a walk-on back there because he has shown that he's not afraid to catch a football back there and make some plays. So I actually think that's a good move, frankly. But, they're holding kids accountable for their mistakes. There's no doubt about that. So I do appreciate at least that part of the coaching today. And we'll get into more coaching when we talk about both sides of the football and things of that nature. So anything else you guys want to get off your chest at the moment, big picture wise for this game before we dive in a little bit more, specifically offensively and defensively?
It's just good to see them win games when they're not playing at their best. That's it. That's the development of winning programs. Now the next step is consistency. It's shown me that they've grown from Northern Illinois in game. Coaches and players from that Northern Illinois game, they have grown when it comes to handling adversity in the midst of games. It's one thing to have a week to prepare coming out of adversity. We've seen them respond to bad losses, but to handle it in game and right the ship and do what's necessary to eventually win the game, they've done it 2 consecutive weeks. And that's something I asked coming out of Northern Illinois. I need to see that, and they've answered that question, and now they need to go on to answer the next level of testing that's going to come in October and November. It's really as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're waiting for this pretty football team to show up, it's like this is one of those gritty seasons. This might end up being one of those seasons where you're like, they coached their butts off. When you take a look back at it and say, this staff did a really good job of coaching, so hopefully that's where it's trending to.
I look at the state of where Notre Dame is at, and I'll look at this offensively too. The common theme is Notre Dame's 4-1, right? 4 wins on the season, and after every single win, we come back here and we sit down and talk about how they're not there yet. They're not even close. But when I think about that, you go and you beat a team week 1 on the road in a very hostile environment. Mm-hmm. You beat a team by 59 points in Purdue. You beat a good, well-coached Miami of Ohio team by 25 points. And you hang 31 points, 21 of those coming in the first quarter against a really good Louisville defense. That gives me a lot of confidence in this team moving forward because there are steps of improvement being made, a lot of areas of correction, like I said, but Notre Dame's offense is nowhere near their ceiling. And they're 4-1, and they're putting points up on the board, right? So it's a lot to work out. This team has a lot to discuss in the bye week for how to get better and how to make that jump from being that grinded out, that gritty season that Sean's talking about to, hey, maybe we can watch some games as fans and be a little bit more comfortable sitting on the couch watching Notre Dame's offense trot in and out of there, right? So there is a lot of area of improvement, but I also want to emphasize how much improvement has happened since week.
Yes. Yep. Agreed.
And that is a huge thing that I think over the course of the bye week, I know we're going to talk about at Irish Breakdown. And that's, for the disgruntled fans out there, I get it. This was not a beautiful game to watch, right? I mean, it's weird. You can go back and you can look at the overall team stat sheet and see the 3 specific areas where Notre Dame won this game, right? Notre Dame was outgained by 115 yards. They lost the time of possession by 5 minutes, and Louisville had 8 more first downs than they did. It's crazy. If you would have told me that, on Friday, that's what the outcome of the game was going to be, I was like, oh boy, here we go, right? Where they won it, they won the turnover battle. They held Louisville to 1-5 on 4th down, and Notre Dame averaged more yards per play, which is one of the keys to victories that we talked about. So it's improvement, but a lot of improvement yet to be made. At the end of the day, I'm always going to be happy with the top 15 win. And that's just
No, 100%. And I think that's the biggest key to this whole thing, right? We still need to see more improvement. There's no doubt about that. And that's not just the players on the field. That's also the guys with the headsets. Still need to see more improvement there as well. And we'll definitely get into that when we talk about both sides of the football. but we also have seen a great amount of improvement from, week 2 to week 3 to week 4 to week 5. There's no doubt about that. There has absolutely been improvement. And again, we'll get into the details in just a second, but I think that can't be lost here, right? I mean, this was a win. It's okay to be happy after a win. We said that last week. We're going to say it again this week. And every time Notre Dame wins, we're going to continue to say it's okay to be happy when Notre Dame wins. You can also be critical from an analytical standpoint. That's okay too. Okay, because that's what the coaches are doing. They're going into the film room and they're saying, look, yeah, we got this done, but we did not get this done, and we did not get this done. And it's okay to have that conversation. That's okay to have that conversation, okay? But I much more prefer to have that conversation when you've got a win and that's what you're talking about. So Corey Dean says it right there, a win is a win is a win. For the most part, that is absolutely 100% accurate. I'll take the win, and let's talk about where you can improve, right? So that's our overall gut take on the game, fellas, that just concluded. Again, Notre Dame 31, Louisville 24. We are. Make sure you guys stay tuned because we are going to jump into the offense next. And in the meantime, make sure you jump on the boards.irishbreakdown.com. Of course, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that notification bell. We got a show coming tomorrow, 7 o'clock, when we break down the film and kind of dive into this thing a little bit more specifically. So make sure you stick around for that. All right, boys, let's talk about the offense. All right, let's talk specifically about the offense. We'll kind of give our overall thoughts on the offense. It was almost a tale of two halves offensively, and I don't even necessarily blame the players on this one for the tale of two halves. Obviously turnovers were part of it, but the offensive philosophy seemed to take a bit of a shift in the second half, which was a little bit disappointing in my opinion. But Sean, give me your thoughts on the offense and kind of where your head is at when looking at this offense.
I think moving forward, we have to expect that this offense is going to be pretty much built around the offensive line in the run game and trying to slowly move Riley Leonard ahead in the passing game. Now, this is an interesting dynamic because it's later, right? You can throw all of the arrows you want at Mike Denbrock. You can, right? But then you have to give him the praise for the certain things that he did, right? The running game early in the game, the screen call late in the game. Like, it was some beautiful things that he set up. That screen call was perfect, right? I wish he had gone to another modification of it for that late fourth down because, look, if you're going to roll out, they're coming downhill expecting that hard. Like, take a tight end across or something, had the back end tight end fall down like Lou Holtz used to have and sneak out the backside, something along those lines. But I just think once again, the inconsistency comes from there not being fluidity within the offense from top to bottom, right? You have a offensive coordinator that's trying to figure out, man, I need to go to tight formations to help my youngsters on the left side, especially in this game against this Louisville front, right? I would love to open it up and run out of 11 and open formations. But man, can we really do that right now? Right. And at the same breath, he's trying to help his quarterback in the passing game, but use his strength to allow him to get into the game. Because obviously when he's running the ball, he plays better. So now you're trying to solve and do all of these things and coax every part of the offense. And then I don't know what the wide receivers were doing today. They were just lackadaisical, like in the passing game and in the running game and run blocking. Like, I don't know how Chris Mitchell gets a block in the back, like when the guy's playing like 7 yards off the ball. How do you get a block? You know where the play is going. You know where it's going. It had nothing to do with the play. Nothing to do with the play. And it's just like the inconsistencies, the false starts, things of that nature. This is what it is, right? And I think you see, we'll get to the defense, but I think you see confidence lacking offensively when things don't go well. Things begin to snowball a little bit. I think you saw early, they were getting it going, and then the Jadarian Price fumble. happens, right? So as long as they can play clean, I think it's going to be a much better operation. But when you add in the turnovers and then the occasional missed assignments and things of those nature, forget just making spectacular big plays. If they offensively can just be clean and give themselves a chance, they have the talent to go out there and put up points on a consistent basis. But for whatever reason, this is the frustration for Mike Denbrock, because I'm sure Mike Denbrock didn't forget how to call plays, how to set teams up, how to counter defenses. He didn't forget how to do that. But as an offensive coordinator, I can only imagine when you're worried about, is this quarterback going to be able to make this throw? Is this offensive line going to be able to hold up? It's like now you're really cutting the plays you can call in certain situations down to maybe 5 to 7. It's really something that I think we just really need to be honest about and say, once again, it's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
It's a work in progress, right? And it's very easy to say, well, this person is being held back. Well, they're not doing a good enough job of putting this person in the best position. It's like you roll out Dylan Faison's coming back. Dude, how do you throw that ball into the ground, right? You know Riley's running. How do you allow yourself to get beat by Galat on a key third down, let him cross your face and put early pressure on Riley Leonard? Like, these are the things. Like, just execute the play. That's it. Just don't allow that to happen. That's the one thing that can blow the play up, and you allow it to happen. These are the things that Trevor pointed out during this bye week. Those are just simple things. We're not asking you to make the spectacular play. We're just asking everyone, all 11, down to do your job. That's it. Do your job and do it the best you can. And if you do that, this offense is going to have success. Even in its limitations, they're going to have success. It's there. I think, yeah, but go ahead. Because I can continue, but it would be getting into nitpicking at this point. That big picture, that's the offense for me. The offense, like Trevor said, there's a lot to feel good about offensively, right? Because this is a good Louisville team. They played two really good aggressive defenses, two good defensive lines, and they came out with victories. Ladies and gentlemen, they came out with victories with their offensive limitations, with their injuries, right? I think they would have been even better if they had the two interior offensive linemen that they had against Texas A&M. If they had them, I think the offense would have been even better today. But despite that, they found a way to win this game. That's the most important thing, and the offense is going to continue to get. It is what it is. It's built around the run game, and you're running quarterback and taking advantage of opportunities in the pass game. And hopefully during the bye week, they'll find even more counters to what defenses eventually do to them, because you can get that defense early, most defenses, but once they react to what you've been doing, especially out of the tight formations, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the running game. And that's when you have to loosen them up with the counters, the screen game, getting the tight ends involved. You know, we're going to see things. I really believe we're going to see Mike Denbrock begin to add bit by bit, piece by piece. It's almost like putting a Lego set together, right? You open it up, all the Legos are spread over the floor, and eventually you start to see it come together. You know, you're going through, and that's your offensive coordinator right now. He's looking at the paper and he's looking at the Legos and he's trying to figure out, all right, where does this go? All right, how do I put this together? Oh, there it is. This is where this goes. And
we saw pieces of it,
absolutely. Eventually, once you get the foundation laid, you don't have to look at the paper so much. Now you can get a feel for where things need to go, right? So I think that's where this offense is going to be. Mike Denbrock is going to get it there.
Totally. Gut reactions from the offense for me. First and foremost, I think Riley Leonard starting to come into his own as a leader of the offense. There was things that he was doing that's really small and you might not have noticed, but he was directing people with motion. He was demanding good execution through the first 3 drives of Notre Dame on offense. And it was exciting to see because there have been times throughout the season where he's looked a little lost out on the field and just uncomfortable. I think uncomfortable is a better word for that. And today, Riley Leonard, there was no real moment where I looked and I was watching him go throughout the game where he looked uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Now, overall for the offense, I think there was a lack of creativity post the first 3 drives, and I think that there's a reason for that. And I'm going to be honest, my opinion is that's not on Riley Leonard. I don't know what more you want to ask the kid. He had a 74% completion percentage,
right?
No turnovers to himself,
2
passing touchdowns. Yeah.
2 drops. 2 bad drops, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And here's my thing. The way that I look at that again, and I mentioned it in the initial gut reactions, is that is growth. That's growth. Because in previous weeks, Jaden Greathouse being wide open on that touchdown, Riley Leonard's not throwing that pass.
We're talking about that as a missed opportunity, right?
100%.
And on that play, let's talk about that play real quick, Trevor, since you brought it up. It was I was sitting next to Brian and we talked about that play for a while. Obviously, it was a touchdown, so they go to commercials. We had time to talk about it. That is exactly how you beat a single high safety. You have 2 guys basically running. You got the post and you got a seam, and that safety has to make a decision. He made a decision. Riley went the other direction where he should have gone because he was wide open. Obviously, there was a bit of a miscommunication as well, but it was honestly, it was a simple read. You're reading the high safety, and the safety went this way, so he went that way, basically. And on top of that, it was also a great job of climbing the pocket, keeping your eyes downfield, all the things that we talked about early on in the season that he really wasn't doing because he was rushing things. He didn't rush at all. Kept his eyes up, climbed the pocket, watched that safety, gave a little shoulder, and then bloop, right to the guy that was wide open. And that's all you need to do if you're Riley Leonard. You don't have to be Quinn Ewers sitting in the pocket, just picking. That's not who you are. And I'm okay. I'm personally fine with that. That's not who you are. And I think Mike Denbrock, I'm not saying he didn't know it, but now they're starting to become on the same page, and Riley Leonard has slowed things down in his head, and that play was a perfect example of what he's going to be able to do. Other times, to be perfectly honest with you, when they tried to set him up in the pocket and allow him to do some certain things, he had pressure in his face almost instantaneously. And I don't care who you are as a quarterback, when that's the case, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. But today, he did a pretty good job of escaping pressure and still making plays downfield. And that 74% completion percentage kind of says that, to be honest. And he made, look, that throw, that screen was not the easiest throw in the world to make, by the way. That was a pretty athletic throw to make on that throwback screen. And it was a perfect tendency breaker. It was a perfect tendency breaker because they had been rolling right, and then right over there to Jeremiah Love. And of course, Jeremiah Love has that extra gear that we all wish we had, and was able to score on that. But a lot of good things from the offense, especially in those first 3 drives. No question about it. I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch. So I'll send it back over to you. I wanted to talk about that one play just because so many of the things he wasn't doing well early in the season, in that one play kind of encapsulates I think where he's at now, or at least where they're trending to.
Yeah. And one of the plays too, and I know you guys are going to go back and watch the all 22. The play that impressed me even more than the Jaden Greathouse touchdown was a few plays earlier when Riley Leonard steps up in the pocket, hits Jaden Greathouse on 3rd down on the sideline. That's a play that in previous weeks he's taken off and running and not picking up that first down.
Because he could have.
100%. And one of the biggest complaints that we have had at Irish Breakdown is keep your eyes down the field when you're moving. And he did. Mm-hmm. So, and now look, again, did he do it the entire game? No, he didn't. But in previous weeks, that was just a non-factor.
Right.
And now it is. The lack of creativity on offense is, quite frankly, it's due to the inconsistencies up front. And you can tell based on the style of play calling, right? There is a lack of creativity in the run game today. That is not on Riley Leonard. It's not. There was very evident that on third down, a lot of down and distance situations, the goal was to move the pocket. Why is that? It's hard to run a creative offense when you have to get the ball out in under 2 seconds. It just is. So there's a lot to continually clean up. And I don't want to turn this into a bashing an offensive line segment because they're playing with a true freshman at left tackle. Their starting center from the season is injured, and the starting right guard from the season is injured. So there's a lot to clean up. It's understandable.
And that starting left guard was out in that last series. Sam Pendleton went out too. So Sullivan Absher was in the game.
Yeah. So there is a lot of things to clean up. But I think overall, battling adversity is huge. And in previous years and previous games, if these type of things were happening to former Notre Dame teams that we had seen, Notre Dame is not leaving the field with a 31-24 dub. It's just not happening. So a lot of good things to improve on. And I know we're going to take a deep dive here in a second, so I'll kind of chair it for that. But questions around personnel groupings, what you can do to get the offense more creative with the limitations that you have. It's all stuff that I know we're all going to be diving into throughout the week and throughout the bye week. So a lot of good stuff to talk about, Vince. A lot of good stuff.
No doubt about it. So let's jump into this thing a little bit more specifically, guys. We can, why don't we start with the good? And we'll start with these first 3 drives in the game. That first drive, honestly, in a vacuum, that first drive was a thing of beauty, to be honest with you. Number one, you are trying to answer a special teams turnover where they went down and scored a touchdown. Obviously, they only had to go 24 yards, and they did it in 3 plays, I believe. And so you're trying to answer that score. You're trying to pick up your defense a little bit because they were put in a terrible spot by the special teams. And the offense proceeds to go on a 12-play, 75-yard drive that eats up 6 minutes and 8 seconds off the clock and ends in a touchdown. I mean, for this offense and what we've seen so far this year, fellas, I just don't know that it's going to get better than that. And if they can rinse and repeat that drive, they're going to be in great shape. They're going to be in great shape moving forward.
Like Trevor pointed out, I think the offensive line, played tremendous early in that game. And I think
pushing Louisville
their rhythm as an offense, I thought, was trending to be very good and consistent for the entire half until that fumble. I really do. And then I think things kind of from there start to go off kilter a little bit. And then, once you get off of that script of they've had to go to tighter formations for a reason. They've had to do that for a reason. We didn't see that against Texas A&M, right? Then as we went on and the left side of the offensive line started to leak a little bit, it's like, okay, now we have to do a better job of protecting these guys. And you knew their game plan was, as you should against any elite defensive end, he's not going to wreck our offense. He's not going to wreck our offense. Everybody else can make plays, but Galat's not going to wreck our offense. And you can see that was the game plan today. They did an incredible job running at him and then in the passing game running from him so that he wouldn't, destroy that. And I think, I believe it was Jeremiah Love had a great pickup or a great chip on one of Riley's completions where he chipped Galat. And they just he's doing a masterful job of trying to do his best at helping everyone. Imagine having to help the quarterback, the offensive line on the same play, right? How creative, like Trevor said, how creative do you want me to be? Where in my play calling, I'm trying to help the offensive line and the quarterback. But at the same time, you can be creative with how you add that extra blocker, right? If you bring him in, don't always have him going to the same spot to block. Maybe have him come in motion, come back, and run outside. Maybe have him come across and block, but you're really trying to run to the backside, right? Just like play with the eyes of the defense. And I think that's what Trevor was pointing to, being more versatile in your play calling in the run game, right? Give them different looks, out of the same things. Okay, if you have to keep the formation simple, then let's get creative within those formations, within your motions. I think another play call that was fantastic, not just the spring game, but the call on third and medium where they had pressure, they stack Harrison, and I forget who the other receiver is. They run the switch routes, and Harrison's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's how you beat pressure man to man. Don't just let your wide receivers sit there. Stack them, use motion, get them open, get them releases, and then play off of that. So we saw it in certain instances, and I think that's the frustration, right? We see it, you show it to us, and then you take it away from us. Don't be an Indian giver. As an offensive coordinator, give us more. We want more. And I think that's the frustration offensively that we see. If we never saw it, it would be one thing. But to see it and then feel like, man, we don't see it for another quarter or a quarter and a half, that, you know, can make you feel like, yo, this is crazy. What are we doing?
I think on the first 3 drives, what Notre Dame's offense did such a good job of was taking advantage of every opportunity that they were given. So obviously the game didn't start out the way that you want to. Devin Ford fumbles on a kickoff return. Louisville gets the football on their doorstep. They score quickly. And I'm sure, like a lot of you guys, I know I'm not alone in this, but I was watching. I was like, here we go.
Yep. Like,
here we
go.
A
great start.
And what did the offense do? 12-play, 75-yard drive for a touchdown. It's a great response. Fantastic response. Next drive, and I know we're going to talk about the defense in a second, but on the next drive, you give up a 40-plus yard rush to a quarterback on a keep, and Leonard Moore comes from behind, punches the ball out. Then what do? You drive down the field and score and take advantage of a turnover. And then what happens? Your defense gets a stop, botch snap on the punt, offense punches it in on the next play. So it was really, really, really good complementary football in the first quarter. It was great. And for the first time this season, which is what is giving me a lot of confidence, is I would make the argument the offense picked up the rest of the team in the first quarter.
100%. And that has not been the case all year.
And it was very much a, hey, we got this. We got the ball back. We'll go score. And they put up 21 points in 15 minutes. And that's something I'm always going to walk away from, looking at it as a huge win. Huge win. Mike Denbrock, especially on that first drive, was in his bag, dude. I mean, he was using motion the correct way. It was a very diverse play calling sheet. Where I think things started to go a little bit south is after Riley Leonard came up a little gimpy. After he got landed on
the late hit, or the supposed what should have been a late hit.
Yes. After the late hit, because that's when all diversity in the run game kind of went out of the building, in my opinion, because then you don't have the confidence to run your quarterback as much as you did. And you could tell as the game went on and Riley started feeling a little bit more comfortable again, they would start to use him a little bit. But that to me is when the offense came to a screeching halt, because I think Riley Leonard's legs and his ability on the ground, I think masks sometimes how ineffective this run game would be without a mobile quarterback. Because schematically, with Riley Leonard's legs, you have to take minimally 2 people out of the run scheme, out of run fits, to watch him on the backside. And when he basically from start of the second quarter to midway through the third, when he was proving not to be a threat with his legs, and you can just key on Jeremiah Love, that's why we watched 7 straight runs of his for 2 or 3 yards. It's tough. So things to build on. John?
But Trevor, don't think it. Look, if I'm an opposing team, I think opposing teams have been going at his legs on purpose. I think they know if we take his legs, we injure him or we hurt him a little bit, that affects their offense. Teams know that. What you just said, I bet you, is being discussed by opposing teams in the lead up to games. Not being dirty, but like play on the edge. I think that one of his last runs, they purposely tried to hit him on below his knee. Absolutely. Coming from the side. Yeah. And what happened? Notre Dame had to take a timeout. Like, that is how tenuous the offense is, right? Everything hinges on the legs of your quarterback right now. And when the legs are taken out of the process, the run game becomes limited, right? So now that is the next process for Mike Denbrock. What is my counter when this happens? Because he can still be a decoy. Even if he's not running the ball, you have to respect him when he's on the field. So now how do we counter that? What are we going to use? Are we going to use jet sweeps now? Because we haven't seen that really. We haven't seen jet sweep action coming across with the same read. They have to find different ways now to impact and open up the run game in different areas, and hopefully they can do that. Unfortunately, Faison was injured today. Hopefully he's back for the next game. But I would love to see those type of implementations in the run game, because eventually, the way he runs, how do you expect him not to get banged up? He has a history of getting banged up. You just can't keep running him for 4 quarters. It's not wise. You're going to have to find a way to let him be dominant 1 quarter and then go to other aspects of your run game for the next 2 or 3 series. And then come back to him. If you continually just want to go out there and say, we have to run him, we have to run him. Yes, you're putting them in harm's way. Just naturally, in the natural order of the way the game is played and the way he plays the game. And then with defenders, they're going to continue to take shots at him because they know how important he is to the offense.
Mm-hmm. And he is incredibly important to the offense because they scored 31 points today, and he accounted for 21 of those points. Well, I guess technically, 18 of those points, because you can't count extra points. But he was responsible for 3 touchdowns, right? 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, and 215 yards of total offense, and 74% completion percentage, right? We saw some good things from what they wanted to do with Riley Leonard. I do think that, the injury, and I wouldn't even call it an injury, bumps, bruises, whatever the case may be, he wasn't at 100% the entire game. There's no doubt about that. But man, I don't think anybody out here, or at least anybody should ever question that kid's grit, man. Like, he wanted to play, and there were times where he could have definitely laid on the ground and come out of the game and all of these different things and didn't. I mean, he got right back up and played hard for this team. So I think I feel like he should have won over some people in this game. And the positives of Riley Leonard today, I think, were really good. I think they were really good, right? And as we slowly transition to the negative and in a moment, I don't think some of the negative stuff that happened with this offense, I don't think you can put on Riley Leonard. I just don't think you can put that on him specifically. Are there things he can do better? There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. He had one horrendous throw that it was at the feet of Faison, I believe, right? I believe it was Faison, right? It was a bad throw, terrible throw. And anybody who's anti-Riley Leonard is going to hold on to that miss, and they're not going to let go, right? It was a bad throw. But he also had a lot of really good throws. And he still had a 74% completion percentage and had 2 big-time drops by Bo Collins. And I'm not even necessarily blaming Bo Collins. He's got to make those catches. There's no doubt about that. But guys make mistakes, man. It happens. It happens.
Vince, that's crazy, right? He has been Mr. Dependability,
right,
in the wide receiver room.
Yes,
right. And then this is what I'm talking about, man. Like, when can you get to a point where the offense collectively is consistent and everyone is just don't make the spectacular play, just do the
easy plays.
Make the easy plays. That's it. That's it. Just be solid. And if you're solid, you'll score points because you have the talent to do it. It's as simple as that. And then now, because you talk about instilling trust in your players, your performance instills trust in the play calling. Because now the play caller feels like, okay, now I can trust these guys to go do this and to add this, right? So everything that we're watching is, like I said, is something that's coming along slowly but surely. We're seeing improvements. Right. The number for me is 150 right now. 150, because I don't expect Riley Leonard to throw the ball more than 20 to 25 times in a game.
Sure.
So if he completes 15 balls for over 150 yards, that's 10 yards per reception. That's a pretty good number. That means big plays in our running game. You expect him to run for 50 to 60 yards or more. So he's going to give you over 200 yards total offense. That right there, eliminating just the simple mistakes and making the simple plays, is going to give you a great chance of putting up 30 plus on a weekly basis.
Right.
It's really as simple as that. It's really as simple as that. And people are like, 150 yards? Yeah, what did he throw for today? 160 something?
163.
Yeah.
There you go. Just, man, get above 150 and do your thing in the run game and find other ways to get other people involved in the run game and play clean, stay in front of the sticks, stay on time, and you'll put up points because your defense is going to give you other opportunities when they turn teams over on short fields and score in the red zone. This is how you put up 30 points consistently, even though you feel like the offense is limited in certain ways. Man, just do your job. But, you know, no one expected Bo Collins to do that today based upon the way he's played.
Right. Oh, yeah.
No one expected that.
Well,
right.
You know, the funny thing is if he catches those two very catchable balls, Riley Leonard throws for 83%. Yes, here's the thing about Riley Leonard. Everybody was just all over him last week for not hitting the layups, right? Didn't hit the layups, couldn't hit the layups. What did he do this week, guys? He hit those layups. He hit the layups, man. Like, he's kind of doing what everybody keeps asking him to do, but then they find out they come up with more things that they want him to do that he's not doing or whatever. Like, he hit the layups. He did what he did what he needed to do today, and again, accounted for over 200 yards of offense and 3 touchdowns, right? I mean, that's good. Offensive line, I thought in the first quarter and a half, I thought they were blowing Louisville off the line. I thought they did a really, really good job in run blocking in the first quarter and a half. That's why they had such success running the football. O-line came out to play, man. They came out to play. One of my favorite plays was the touchdown run by Riley Leonard because Pat Coogan had one of the best blocks I've ever seen him have. Him and Rocco Spindler, for as many issues as Rocco Spindler had today, and he had them. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely blew the right-hand side of the offense or of the defensive line. Offense is right, defense is left. Blew them off the line, and then the excitement that Pat Coogan had after he got into the end zone, man. Like, it's like, okay, that's the first sign of energy I've seen from the offensive line all season. And it came from a guy who's making his second start basically of the year. And, Pat Coogan played pretty well today. So, offensive line did really, really well first quarter and a half. I thought they kind of trailed off there. And when Notre Dame went conservative offensively, the offensive line didn't really hold up their end of the bargain when it came to run blocking. When it became very obvious what Notre Dame wanted to do, that's when Notre Dame couldn't produce with their offensive line. And I have a hard time 100% putting that on the offensive line, to be perfectly honest with you guys, because Mike Denbrock knows who these guys are. He knows what they can do, and I thought he called a perfect game for this offensive line early on. And then when they kind of shrunk the playbook and tried to protect that 10-point lead, and we're just kind of just running it up the gut, and a lot of times, obviously, not with Riley Leonard, and Louisville was able to kind of stack the box and stop the running backs and all these different things. They didn't really hold up their end of the bargain. But I don't know that that's who they are. That's the problem for me, Sean.
And you know what? Mike Denbrock is a good coordinator. Ron English is ladies and gentlemen, you do realize there are other good players and other good coaches on the team. Watching Jeff Brom against Al Golden today was absolutely amazing. I'm going to watch this game like 4 times. Just Notre Dame defense against Louisville offense, because some of the things that Jeff Brom schemed up against pressure, and then for him to expect certain things, to anticipate the drop coverage and call the crosser and allow his guy to make a play on 2nd and 18 or 1st and 18 to get back in the series, man, it was great. Absolutely great theater outside of, what you see on the field from the players. So we can sit here, we can nitpick, but I mean, you expected Louisville and Ron English to respond to what was being done to them. and stop Notre Dame and force them to go to something else. That's what they're supposed to do. And they did that. And Notre Dame sputtered a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But when the game was on the line and you needed that lead extended, he came up with 2 really good play calls in clutch situations that got you that 14-point lead. So that's money time. You need your offensive coordinator to come through. He did, right? I would say even on the last drive for Louisville, I think the play they ran where Jordan Clark was trailing, they ran a little plate action, roll out to the left, but they really wanted to get the action to the right to Lacey. That's a great play call, right? Jordan Clark did a great job getting back in that, making a play, and Shuck just didn't have the arm to lead him. That was a great football game. On and off the field in the booth, man, Denbrock against English, Brom against Golden. It was just 2 really good football teams, man. And if you just expect Notre Dame to always have the upper hand on the field and in the coaching booth, that's not.
It's not reality.
You're not being objective. You're just not being objective. Like, yes. Did you expect Notre Dame to come in and just run all over? No. Ron English wasn't about to let that happen. His players weren't about to let that happen. Right? And Notre Dame had to find a way to respond. Trevor pointed out they probably would have responded sooner if Riley Leonard was healthy and he wasn't banged up, right? But, when you don't have that option and now you're trying to counter to them shutting down what you want to do, you have to figure it out. And like you said, we have a defense that gives us the opportunity to figure it out. That's the great thing. Mm-hmm. When you're trying to figure it out offensively, you have a defense that is going to keep you in every game. Every game. And if Notre Dame had turned the ball over, you're probably looking at this defense giving up 10 points today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's with their mistakes. I'm telling you, man, look, there's a lot we can pull from offensively to say we have to improve this, we have to improve that. They put up 31 points today. They put 31. We're sitting here saying they put up 31 points and didn't play to the best of their capabilities.
Right.
That's improvement. That is improvement.
Yeah. And to your point, Sean, Louisville scored 10 points off turnovers.
Yeah.
And those were some bad turnovers, right? I mean, they were deep in Notre Dame territory. And those were just gimme points. Frankly, they were gimme points, right? So 10 points off turnovers was what kept Louisville in this game. I mean, it just did, right? So let's spin to kind of our thoughts. And we've kind of touched on it here and there, but we've kind of talked about the positive. Let's talk about a little bit of the negative from an offensive standpoint. I thought wide receivers, I wasn't overly enthusiastic, at least in the first watch of wide receiver play. It didn't seem too quick off the line. There were some not great block attempts. I'll say attempts because, you brought up the Chris Mitchell block in the back. Mitchell Evans had some pretty bad misses in open field as well, which he held, which wasn't good. So a lot of the perimeter blocking was not great today, guys. I mean, again, I want to watch it again, but the live watch, I was not impressed because there were a few different times where I thought Notre Dame might have had a crease, might have had an opportunity to maybe break one, and the perimeter blocking, which hasn't been bad this year, wasn't great today. And that's something that they're going to have to get cleaned up. Trevor, thoughts?
I think there's a lot of different things that they could have done schematically to help them out in this game. My biggest gripe is the lack of play action. I'm not entirely sure, especially when you have a defense that is this aggressive and crashes downhill as fast and as hard as a Ron English-led defense. I don't understand how you don't utilize play action more, because here's the thing. Look, if your offensive line is only capable of running inside zone, that's fine. Like, at the end of the day, if Mike Denbrock has that handicap and you can't do a lot of pin and pull things and you can't get creative up front, if you're going to just run inside zone over and over and over and over again and just hope that 4 makes a miraculous play and hurdles somebody, that's just not a sustainable form of offense. So play into that. Run a play action. and a play action that is convincing. Because so far, when Notre Dame does run play action to this year, it's a little bit nitpicky, but and I talked about this earlier this week. I'm huge on selling play action, right? Don't just have the running back immediately step up into pass pro and Riley Leonard does one of these and then just takes off. Like, ride out the running back a little bit. They are crashing real hard down on Riley Leonard. All it takes is one pull, send somebody on a backside drag, send a backside post, and have the field corner run a deep comeback. And you're going to have 3 different options with your mobile quarterback outside of the pocket and 3 options for him to choose from. There's just so many different things that you could do instead of just running the same thing over and over again and hoping that 13 or 4 or 24 breaks some miraculous run, because it's not sustainable. Might be against Louisville. It's not going to be once you get into, ideally, a playoff scenario or deep in the season, or I don't know if that works against USC. I don't know if that works against Florida State. I don't know if that works against Georgia Tech. So definitely things to do schematically. Overall, I think different things, areas of improvement. The offensive line is one position group that just needs addressed during the bye week. And Brian and I talked about it on the Friday mailbag, where you go into this bye week, and it's not a nobody's position is safe mentality, but you have to start evaluating where you're at. One stat that I do want to point out, Riley Leonard had his most passing yards in the first quarter and in the fourth quarter. That is also the only times when Notre Dame scored touchdowns, was in the first and the fourth quarter. You have to find ways to open up the pass game. Have to. Riley Leonard has to play better. He does have to start hitting some of those layups more consistently, but it's hard to ask your quarterback to push the ball down the field when he doesn't have enough time. So there's things that need addressed. There are. Offensive line is an area of improvement. Schematically, I think you need to utilize more play action. If your goal, is to get Jeremiah Love the ball in the pass game, and I'm happy about the screen pass because it was executed perfectly and it called it a great time. Before that, I am 99% confident that my wife sitting on the couch next to me knew that when they're motioning out Jeremiah Love to the left and nobody else is running a route, that it's going out to a swing pass is imminent going to Jeremiah Love in the flat. You know who else knew that too? Louisville's safety on the opposite side of the field when he crashed down hard and blew it up 3 different times for a loss of yards. There's just different things that Mike Denbrock's going to have to learn to do creatively to get the ball into his position maker's hands. Now, on the bright side, he is trying to take those steps to get the ball into his playmaker's hands. You just have to find different ways to do it, in my opinion. But to Sean's point, at the end of the day, I don't think any of our predictions either had Notre Dame going over 31. I don't think.
No,
I could be
31.
wrong.
I was 31-13. So
okay, it's pretty close. Mine was 28-17. Yeah. I think somebody else's was 24-20. So exceeded our expectations for the most part. So I'm happy with where the offense is. A lot of room for improvement. I'm going to sound like a broken record there, but it's the bye week. I think it couldn't have came at a better time. I think you can start utilizing personnel groupings a little bit differently. I think the wide receiver rotation needs addressed because that's something that is also not going to be sustainable moving forward. There's a lot of evaluation to go on for Notre Dame before they take the field again. A lot.
For sure. No, there's no doubt about it. On specifically on the offensive side of the ball, I completely agree with you. I'm very curious to see what the offensive lineup is when we see this team again in 2 weeks, because of A, injury, because of B, some performance issues, C, because frankly, I just don't know, where they're at with some of these guys. I mean, I think we've seen, 5, 6, almost 10 offensive linemen get significant snaps at some point or another, in this season. And obviously I think that also, takes into account, I'm having a brain fart. The freshman left tackle or
Anthony Knapp.
No,
left guard, Sam Pendleton.
No, the one who got hurt in training camp.
Oh, Charles Jagasaw.
Thank you. Brain fart. Jagasaw. So, I mean, that includes Jagasaw, right? Because he was supposed to be the starter. So, I mean, we have seen like 10 different offensive linemen so far this season and, you know, injuries and playing and all that, I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for them to kind of figure out, okay, what do we have? Let's have some battles. Let's figure this thing out, and let's roll the rest of the season. With all the injuries and with all the bumps and bruises that this team has, I don't think that this bye week could have come at a better time, gentlemen. Let's briefly talk about some of the injuries and some of the things that, I mean, oh my goodness, it felt like every second somebody was going down and somebody was coming off the field, whether it was offensively or defensively, and you know, off the top of my head, you've got Boubacar Traore, Christian Gray didn't play today. You had Sam Pendleton go out at one, you know, towards the end there.
Leonard was banged up. Jeremiah Love went into the injury tent.
There we go. Yeah.
Ben Morrison was off the field for a couple of series. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
there was a lot of injuries on this team, and we can speculate and we can talk about how slippery the turf is when it's raining, and that's legit. It is slippery when it rains. There's no doubt about it. You know, I guess you can talk about strength and conditioning, all of these different things. You can have those conversations, but the bottom line is it's a really good thing that this team is as deep as it is, that we talked about in the offseason about how it's the deepest team we've seen in a really long time and all these different things. They're going to need every bit of that depth right now. And again, this bye week could not have come at a better time, guys.
I agree. Just physically, they need it. Mentally, it reminds me, this 5-week stretch reminds me of the stretch they went through when they eventually lost to Louisville, because they were just kind of gassed, right?
Oh, all those night games and everything.
Yes. So the fortitude they showed also in this game, getting to the end of this stretch and mentally not giving in to the adversity in the game. That's something else to hang your hat on. Yeah. Right. They've grown. They've learned. They're making steps to becoming a really good team and a good program. So you have to respect that. And to just talk about, you know, those negatives have been there. That I can't say, other than Bo Collins, I didn't see negatives today that we haven't seen. So it's not like we're just waiting for the negatives that have existed to finally be answered as they grow, especially more consistently, right? It's not like, all right, all of a sudden the running backs just aren't doing anything. They're running into guys, they're dropping balls and not picking up blitzes. You know, we didn't expect the fumble today, but for the most part, the running backs have been consistent, right? For the most part, the run blocking by the wide receivers until today had been consistent. Right, we were worried about other things, right?
Yeah.
And then you expect Jaden Greathouse to take a step forward. He takes a step forward today. So people are asking, where has he been? He makes a big play early in the game, then catches another ball from Riley Leonard in the first half. So I think it's just about what we said. You know, the negative is they're inconsistent right now. Offensive, they're just inconsistent. They're good, but they're inconsistently good. And that is where the problem comes in, right? They're not spectacular. They're good. And if they can become consistent, they have a really good shot of becoming really good. But it's going to be based upon their consistent play. And that's really the standout negative for me with the offense. And moving forward, I said I thought the offense would get it together for Louisville. I really believe that, right? And they solved some things. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stand on business and say I think coming out of the bye, they're going to continue to get things together offensively.
Yeah,
I see that, and so I'm looking forward to seeing it, you know, play out on the field.
Yep, we have seen consistent growth in the offense, whether people want to admit it or not. Maybe it's not the steps that they want. Maybe they're not big enough steps, but we have seen consistent growth in the offense. There's no debating that. We've seen growth. Now, we've also seen some valleys within the games, there's no doubt, but we have seen consistent growth from the offense. That's all you can ask for.
Mitchell Evans, because you guys pointed this out. I'm interested in the frustration for a guy like him. See, Bo Collins, Chris Mitchell, they're guys that are transfers, they're coming in. But Mitchell Evans, a guy who last year, his route tree was probably a lot more expansive than it is this year. a lot, definitely used, spread out in that inline play action. He was used a lot differently last year. Now it seems like he's being relegated to certain things in the passing game, right? And so maybe that frustration is starting to kind of just spill over into his blocking and other things. It's quite possible. Just an observation. Hopefully the week off can get him locked in the evolution of the offense and using him in what trade. He was great in play action last year. I think he's 100%. He looks like
he is.
They keep telling us he's 100%. It was good to see Jack Larson get in and get some run today. Cooper Flanagan will be back. So look, yeah.
I mean, last year Mitchell Evans had more of a vertical route tree and able to push it downfield. And I think there's also a correlation in who Notre Dame had at tackle last year. It all makes sense. And look, I know nobody is saying this. I'm just saying this in general. It's real easy to point the finger at, well, it's because Riley Leonard can't make those throws. It's like, no, he's proven that he can. Let's just put that to rest. There is a much bigger glaring issue as to why Notre Dame is not able to push routes down the field consistently. And it's going to be a conversation that I know we are just going to have throughout the course of this year until Riley Leonard goes out and has a game where he goes 32 of 35 for 375 yards and 5 touchdowns, which by the style of the way that he plays, he's just not going to have. And that's fine. That's fine. But if the inconsistencies can get cleaned up front, because to the point that we were all talking about earlier, first 3 drives in the first quarter, offensive line played fantastic. They were firing off the ball. It was great. And I don't know what came first, kind of the chicken or the egg thing. I don't know if it was the stagnant play calling that made them kind of start to let up, or if they started to let up, which led to the stagnant play calling. I'll have to go back and watch the film. But I think there is a reason why it's harder to get tight ends involved, because unless you have a Brock Bowers type of tight end, you're not throwing screens to tight ends. You know what I mean? You know, that's just not in the that's not in the play calling sheet. So, and Mitchell Evans is not one of those guys. He's great catching it in traffic. He's great over the middle, and he's great in the seam. In order to throw those routes, you got to have time. Have to. But Sean, I think you might be onto something a little bit there with, I think the confidence in the blocking game. I think there could be some sort of correlation. But
yeah, it has to be frustrating. Frustrating. But Trevor, you hit the nail on the head, man. And I can't wait to watch Brian and Vince tomorrow really break it down, because this offensive line, man, at this point, play the best players, man. I was all for playing the youngsters, watching them grow. At this point, I said it this week, I like the kid, but he's gonna have a battle just to be in the starting 5 next year. Anthony Knapp, he's gonna have a battle. He's gonna have a battle on his hand. He might end up playing the entire year in battle just to be on the field next year. So this is where we're at, right? We're playing backups to backups now.
Yeah.
The line is shifted. We don't have our dogs in there on the interior. Billy Schroff was a dog early in the season. It's tough, Trevor. And Sullivan Absher, I hope he gets a shot, whether at guard or tackle. I hope they truly give him a shot to go ahead and play. Sam Pendleton, I hope he's back. I hope he's healthy, because I think that kid is going to be a really good player. Really good player. So we have to see. Man, Emil Wagner has been a pleasant surprise at right tackle. He really has. Really, if that kid is like 15 pounds heavier, he's probably a first round, second round prospect in the NFL draft. So I agree with you. That really, if you're going to be an offensive line driven offense, as Marcus Freeman has echoed over and over again, get it right. If that's what's going to drive the offense, then get it right.
That's going to do it for our offensive talk, fellas. Hey, everybody, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell. Share with your family and friends. We really appreciate it. If you're listening on the podcast, go ahead and give it a 5-star review. Why not? Tell us what you think. We'd really appreciate that. We do appreciate the feedback, and helps us grow and everything like that. And of course, we have as Sean mentioned, we got Upon Further Review tomorrow night at 7:00, where Brian and I will dig deep into the film and tell you what we saw, what we confirm, what we think we saw. Maybe we saw stuff that we didn't see live, all that fun stuff. So that'll be tomorrow night at 7. And of course, jump on the boards.irishbreakdown.com. Gentlemen, let's talk about the defense today. There was a lot to like, especially in the big moments. There was a lot to like defensively, and there were some times where it was like, man, they're getting out leveraged again, or man, they're not even set when Louisville is running the play and they look a little confused. There was a little bit of a series. There was 2 plays in a row where Notre Dame was not set. They were looking over at the sideline still. When Louisville snaps the ball, it was like, come on, fellas, let's get it together. But I feel like in the big moments, when it mattered, they stepped up. And again, plenty to clean up. No doubt about that. But, stops on 4th down, big pass breakups. The young kids played really, really well. We'll get into that as well. I mean, there was one point in this game, guys, where Drake Bowen, KVA, Bryce Young, Logan Thomas, and Leonard Moore were all on the field at the exact same time. I mean, that's all you got to say. The kids played well. The young kids played very, very well in this game because a lot was being asked. Logan Thomas wasn't planning on playing today. You know what I mean? Or at least not in the significant role that he did have to play after Traore went down. And so I do love the fact that these young guys are coming to play. And regardless of your thoughts about Marcus Freeman, and we all have some mixed emotions about it, there's no doubt about that. But his recruiting on the defensive side of the football, man, those kids came to play. They came to Notre Dame to play some ball, and we get to see it on a regular basis. And I will also say, speaking of the kids, Drake Bowen and KVA played an awful lot in the second half, side by side, when in the big moments. And I did kind of like it. I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of like it. So, thoughts on the defense, guys? Let's go around the horn. Trevor, thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, depth is fantastic. We finally got to see too. This defense is fast, man. I mean, listen, Isaac Brown, the running back for Louisville. People might not know this. That guy's a burner, dude. That guy can move, and you could see Jeff Brom early on was, hey, our goal is to get him out on the perimeter, outside zone, buck sweeps, everything. And Notre Dame's perimeter defense shut it down. And I'm not talking the corners and safeties coming down. I'm talking about linebackers scraping over top.
Right.
This defense is fast. And then they resorted to more of an inside game, which is, for all sakes and purposes, it's the weakness right now of Notre Dame's defense is stopping the interior run game.
Yep.
And there's stuff to clean up there. I mean, I know we talk a lot about inconsistency. And it's on the plays where the D-line plays well, the linebackers aren't there to fit. And then on the plays where the linebackers play well, the D-line isn't there to set the edge. So it's just those little inconsistencies to clean up. But Notre Dame's defense, I mean, 14 points for Louisville were given up off of turnovers. They threw a touchdown pass after the Jadarian Price fumble, and they scored on their first drive of the game after the kickoff fumble. So, yes, I know it's easy to say, oh, you take those turnovers away and they might not have scored. It's like, well, maybe. I mean, if the
you take the turnovers away that Notre Dame gave to Louisville, they scored 14 points.
Sure.
So, I mean,
So there's definitely a lot of conversation to be had around that. But my biggest takeaways for the defense, one, I don't know how soon Leonard Moore found out that he was starting. But it sounds like from all the reports is that Christian Gray was supposed to be good to go up until pregame.
Right.
So I want to give one shout out to that kid for being a true freshman and couldn't have been any more than an hour and a half before kickoff that he found out that he was getting his first start.
Right. If that. Yeah.
So hats off to him. There's a lot to learn. Right. And the biggest play that he gave up was from a former Alabama wide receiver. I'm not going to be mad at
who made an amazing play.
Yeah.
By the way,
yeah.
Can we at least give credit where credit is due?
Yeah, 100%. I was about to say that. We talked all this week about the athleticism and the playmaking ability of Louisville's wide receiving core, and they showed it.
Woo!
Man, did they show it. And there's one play too. Tyler Shuck got decleated by Drake Bowen on that touchdown pass, man. And somehow threw it on a rope, perfect spiral, right where it needed to be.
Who knew?
Right. Louisville's offense came and made plays. I will always give credit where credit is due, but the defense as a whole, one of the biggest keys to victory that I said on Thursday was they had to tackle well in space. And I think they did. If it wasn't for the unsportsmanlike conduct play, and I'm not talking about game balls yet, but spoiler, it was going to be Jordan Clark for me because he played fantastic today. And outside of that play, I'm not saying one play is going to deem how you perform for an entire game, but Jordan Clark tackled very well in space today. I think the defense tackled very well in space today. Overall, I'm not too upset. I mean, 14 points were given up because Louisville started with the ball on their doorstep.
John.
Yeah, Trevor, you're right. I hope Jack Kaiser's okay. I saw him limping up the stairs to the locker room.
Okay.
That's probably why you saw the younger guys.
That makes sense then. Yeah, I was surprised that he was off the field, but those guys played pretty well.
You know, I'm not saying that you were insinuating anything, but I would be okay with that insinuation if
I mean,
by any chance we're kind of making it. But
I am a huge Jack Kaiser fan. But if you want to maybe flip some of the reps a little bit, I'm okay with that too. How's that sound? Is that fair?
Absolutely is fair. And I think the last 2 weeks, something has flipped in Drake Bowen. Just the intensity, the speed he's playing faster. He's playing with exuberance. It's like, I love seeing that. Like, if you're looking for somebody that's going to be the future leader, it's good to see that right there. And Max Bullock needs to be applauded for the way these youngsters are playing. Like, he talked about them being inexperienced, but from day one, they have come in. Of course, once again, this is what we talked about, Trev. This is why I love Jeff Brom, right? Oh, he had Notre Dame schemed early. He did. He had him schemed. He was like, last year, I got to the edges with the speed option. This year, I'm going to get to the edges with the buck sweep and other things. Because they crash, right? That's what they like to do with their defense.
Yeah, they out
Notre Dame didn't necessarily have the linebackers to physically adjust last year. This year, they have the speed at linebacker, as Trevor pointed out, to make the adjustment and shut that down. They averaged under 2 yards per rush in the second half. So tip your cap to that, but also tip your cap because we have critiqued them and I've thrown darts at them. But Riley Mills and Howard Cross, dude, just play to your level. That's it. If you just play to your level every week on the inside, we know you're not monsters. We know you're not run stuffers. We know that. But just play to your level, and they both did that today.
Yeah.
100%. And them doing their job today helped and impacted everyone else to be able to do their jobs, right? Just like the offense, probably not as much. There are some things to clean up, right? Not getting schemed like that, right? Reading your keys early in the game. But I wasn't shocked that their best and most athletic freshman running back beat Jack Kaiser across the field for that first touchdown. It's like, right? It wasn't a shock to me that they motioned to the field to put the tight end one-on-one in a third down situation with Kingston. They're like, if he's on the field, we're going to take a shot with our big tight end against him because that's his weakness. If he has a weakness in this game as a true freshman, it's pass coverage right now, right? And he got a little bit too shallow on his coverage and didn't take the right angle, and he got beat on the seam route. That's it. But he'll learn that with reps because he has the talent and the physical capabilities to do it. So those are the things that we see from this defense. And Leonard Moore, look, I'm not even Rod Hurd balled out today.
Man,
the pass that Lacey caught on him on that third down, it's like, that's just a great play. That's a great play. And that kid is going to be great. Man. He's going to be fantastic for Louisville. So they put Shuck and that offense in a position. you're going to have to make great plays to beat us. You can't consistently just beat us. And Shuck and the wide receivers made some great plays. Like, you tip your cap. That's how they got their points. But other than that, Notre Dame, they did a really good job, man. I would love to see them, take the touchdowns off the board and hold teams to field goals in that situation. Shuck, that's just, you can tell he played infield. You can tell, dude, that throw when Bowen lit him up, that was a great throw. That was a fantastic, once again, he made a great play. Tip your cap. I think Ben Morrison today wasn't at his best. Yeah, he was a little iffy. This is the second game where you can say, Northern Illinois, he was a little iffy, right? But you feel really good now about that defensive backfield, the things they can do, because you have Rod Hurd can play good. And you have Leonard Moore and Christian Gray. When he comes back, heck, Carson Hobbs has been playing better. And it's probably going to get some run coming up soon, especially after the bye week. They are really deep in that secondary, and then they have speed in front of them. It's just, when they bring pressure and go man to man, I feel bad for the quarterback because you're not going to have a lot of time to throw, and you're going to have to throw in the small windows. And Shuck just happened to hit 2 small windows today. No, really 3, because that first touchdown pass was a great pass as well. So if your quarterback can make great throws, you have a chance. If not, it's going to be a long day going up against this Notre Dame defense, man, because they, despite the interior of that defensive line, which should be bolstered, we hope, by Gabriel Rubio's return, man, I'm impressed, man. People sit up and say they gave up 24 points. Like, man, they played their tails off today. I don't think you guys know what it's like to go up against a Jeff Brown called offense and how difficult it is and how they stress you vertically and horizontally consistently and then give you power and then go to buck sweep, like you said early. They scouted Notre Dame early to figure out how they could take advantage of them. And then Notre Dame just stepped up and say, no, we're better than you. Now that we've seen what you can do, we're going to take that away and we're better than you. And it was fantastic to watch. It really was.
You got something, Trevor? Look like you had something to say. No, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. No, defensively, you want to see them lock up some of the run just a little bit. There was a couple of plays, they gave up a 20-yarder. They gave up, I think, a 27-yarder. And obviously they gave up the big play to the quarterback, which obviously ended up going in Notre Dame's favor because of the turnover, So there's definitely some things that they have to, fix. But overall, like I said, they came up in the biggest of moments, and that's when it matters, right? I mean, I would say, and I think you guys would agree with me, look, there have been times this season where the game has been in the hands of the defense. I don't think today is any different. And they came through today. They absolutely came through. And this is Al Golden speaking, not me. They didn't come through at the end of the Northern Illinois game. They had an opportunity to win the game at the end. They didn't. They had an opportunity to win the game today at the end of the game, and they did it. They stopped Louisville on 4th down. They got the ball back to the offense so they could just put a knee on it and end the dang thing. So, and a lot of the guys that were on the field were different guys than were on the field before just because of injuries and kind of the way the season is shaken out. They got the job done today when it mattered most. Like some of the numbers are a little ugly. I'm not going to lie. They gave up way too many yards rushing today overall, right? I mean, they gave up 131 yards total, but that snap over the head of the punter is -42, right? So that kind of adjusts the run stats a little bit, right? So it really should be something more along the lines of like 170 yards on the ground. That's obviously way too many. And if you add those back in, then obviously they're over 400 yards of total offense. I want to see that get a little bit better. Look, the Louisville quarterback, as you guys mentioned, he made some plays, man. Like he played like a dog. Like he played about as good as he's going to be able to play against this defense, fit the ball into some tight windows. He still only threw for 59% completion, guys. I mean, Notre Dame did a pretty darn good job against him. He just made some plays. And, again, you got to tip your cap sometimes. 2 amazing catches he fit the ball into some tight windows. Is what it is, man. It is what it is. So, defense played well when they needed to, and I loved it. And it's really hard to carry on like a thought watching Brian dance.
Vince, your professionalism there was amazing.
It was not easy.
Hey, because you knew what I was trying to do.
Yes,
you knew what I was trying to do. And you still did it, baby.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Welcome.
This is
Brian.
why
you're the OG right there, my friend. This is why you're the
welcome,
OG.
Brian.
How you guys
doing? I have to keep a straight face an awful lot in my other job when I really want to laugh at times. So I've had a lot of practice. But anyway, welcome to the postgame show, Brian. You are back home from the game.
Yes.
You were there for the entire time and got to see that kind of crazy fourth quarter that took place over there at Notre Dame Stadium. Notre Dame obviously came out with the victory. Since you are not usually on the postgame show, people have to wait for your thoughts until tomorrow night. But today, folks, it's a treat. Brian, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, where are you guys right now in the discussion?
We're talking defense right now.
Can I jump in just with that, and then I can kind of share my offensive thoughts later?
Yeah, why don't you clean up the defense for us, and we'll finish that conversation, and then we'll kind of move into your take and the super chats. How about that?
Yeah, man, I dig it. Number one, roll Tide. I'm enjoying seeing Kirby get his brains beat in right now. First of all, guys, it's funny. I have had a bit of a unique mental shift when looking at the defense in this game, and here's where I'm coming from on this. Overall, I was not. Thank you, my dear. Overall, I left my notepad upstairs, and Angela's brought it down. She's like, "I just shot that game for 3 hours with all this camera equipment, and now you're going to ask me to bring stuff downstairs." Initially, my thought was I was frustrated by what we saw in this game because you let Louisville kind of run on you. And I'm just like, man, this is frustrating. Like, I see it, you see it. Like, Vince, I'm looking over at you. I'm like, oh, here comes inside run, because I knew it, because as soon as Notre Dame would bring their will linebacker up on the line, it's like Brom's going to zone run it. And the more I think about it, I'm almost kind of like, checkmate, Al Golden. Because you force them to do the thing that they're not the best at, that you're most concerned about in that game, which is run the ball, don't throw the ball. As we talked about it in our breakdown, Trevor, like, this is a team that can hit the deep ball. I mean, we walked through all the big plays they made in the passing game in just 3 games. And yes, it was frustrating. And I don't think that they were happy giving up 7 when they should have only given up 4, right? Like, there's a lot that's got to get cleaned up there. There's some bad, like, I think Drake Bowen had like 2 bad run fits early and then was a monster after those 2 bad early run fits. There's a couple bad run fits by Jaden, a couple bad run fits by Kingston. But what we saw in the game overall was, hey, we'll give you that 7, even though we were hoping to only give you 4, because when you hand the ball off to one of those running backs, you're not throwing it to Ja'Cory Brooks. You're not throwing it to Colin Lacey. You're not throwing it to your tight end. You're not throwing it to, Chris Bell. And it's almost kind of like, if you force them to go on long enough drives, they will make a mistake, whether it's a quarterback mistake, a line mistake, a receiver mistake, or a play calling mistake, because y'all know I'm a huge Jeff Brom fan. They had a back-to-back 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2 where they threw the football. And I said, you're playing right into Notre Dame's hands. Into Notre Dame's hands right now by throwing the football. So it's kind of that mental game where if you're not concerned about, hey, I don't care what many yards they get, I care about keeping their points down. And Louisville had 1 drive in this game where they got a touchdown. 1. That's it. Because the other 2 touchdowns came on they got the ball at the 16-yard line and then the 8-yard line. And I'm looking at it thinking, like, yeah, it's not pretty, but Al Golden's not trying for it to be pretty, because you're not going to shut. This is the thing I had to tell myself as I'm walking out the car and I'm having this, thinking through the game and those type of things. It's like, when you're a defensive coordinator against a team like this, coached by Jeff Brom, it's not so much about, hey, how can we hold them to 7 points? It's how can we win this football game? How can we keep them out of the end zone? And again, if you don't give them 2 short fields, I mean, they might have gone down and gotten field goal drives, or maybe they would have got a touchdown drive, but they didn't. And again, it still comes back to the same thing. When you force a team to run more and more plays, there's more and more chance that something happens. And I mean, outside of, you had one big pass play and the long run early, but then the long run happened. What do we see? Leonard Moore coming up from behind, and holy moly, he was fast, and then knocking the ball out. So I thought this defense, again, it wasn't sexy, but I think it was something where I don't think I recognized what Al Golden was doing at first. And I was frustrated by it at first. Like, how are you just letting them run on you? And I think I was like, look, I'd rather them run it for 7 to this guy than throw it for a 50-yard gain. I mean, because especially with Christian Gray out, and then there was a period of time where you had Jordan Clark at cornerback with Leonard Moore. And that's when you're definitely like, okay, let's dare them to run the ball here instead of going there. So overall, guys, I think I was actually looking back on it like, you know what? I think we learned a little bit of a lesson today from Al Golden. Like, guys, I don't care about, he said, I don't care about number 1 run defense in the country. I don't. But he kept him in check, limited the big plays. They had 3 big plays in this game? I think. Yeah. And
2 running back and 1 quarterback.
Yeah.
Talking about running game, right?
No. Just overall. Oh. Louisville came into this game, guys. They had only played 3 games, and they had 12 plays of 30 or more yards. Just to give you a heads up, that ranks 12th in the country. Not a single team ahead of them has played less than 4 games. So, like, they're tied with Ohio State and Navy for teams that have only played 3 games and most plays of 12 or more yards so far this season. They're tied for 7th in the country coming into this game in most plays of 40 or more yards coming into today. And they were tied for 10th in most plays of 50 yards or more. Again, a lot of these, they've only played 3 games. A lot of teams have played 4. Some teams have played 5 games. And you gave up, 1 play of 50 yards in this game, right? They had
0.
1 pass play, wasn't it?
0.
I thought they had a long pass play. Okay.
The longest pass play was 34 yards.
Okay, so then you had 1 play of over 40 yards in this game.
And that was the quarterback
came
where where you got the fumble at the end of it.
And you stripped them, right?
Yeah.
And you came into this game. They had 8 plays in the first 3 games of over 40 yards.
Yeah.
In this game, so you had 3 plays of 30+ yards, Vince, for a team that had 12 coming into this game, right? So, you look at those things, guys, and it's like that's what you wanted to limit. And by daring them to run the football and then not giving up, they had the 1 big run, but outside of that, it's like 7, some 9, some 12s, but it wasn't big runs. And you force them into some checkdowns. Like, man, they're just giving up those checkdowns on that last drive. And that's the one drive where I just didn't like it. I thought they just gave up a little bit. They went a little soft and kind of let Louisville go down the field, and it was too early for that. But outside of that, honestly, guys, I think Al Golden took me to school a little bit today. About, like, guys, this isn't about putting the number 1 defense in the country on the field. This is about going out and beating the number 15 team in the country and making sure that offense doesn't, we keep them away from doing what they do best. And they took Louisville out of wanting to do what they do best in this game. And I mean, that was big. That was big. And the offense obviously sparking them to a 21-7 lead helped because they weren't playing. I thought the defense was struggling early. Same thing, the motions and shifts. For the love of God, coaches, good coaches are going to motion and shift you early. Think of stuff. Think of what they haven't done. Okay, if they haven't done this, then think of what they could do and have an answer. That was that first touchdown drive. That's exactly what they went after. You've got to adjust quicker. But then they did adjust, and they had a plan for that stuff later. And so that was a little frustrating. And maybe you'd like to see them not give up a touchdown on one of those short fields. I mean, that's if you want to be critical. They got one of them at the 16, hold them to a field goal. That's kind of your job there. Red zone defense wasn't great today. But at the end of the day, there's a lot this defense is going to look at and say, listen, man, we were kind of shutting them down. They started having more success throwing the football after number 5 got hurt. Once number 5 went down, the pocket was a little bit cleaner for a while there. You know what I mean? But what does it say about Marcus Freeman and Chad Bowden's recruiting that you can lose Jordan Patelho, Boubacar Traore, Josh Burnham, and you bring in 225-pound Logan Thomas, and he just starts making plays? True freshman. Like,
Well, look, Brian, I said it earlier before you came on the show, but there was a play, and I just happened to look down at this play, and it was in a big moment. It was in the third quarter. You know, I think Louisville was driving. I can't remember exactly, but Drake Bowen, KVA, Bryce Young, Logan Thomas, Leonard Moore were all on the field at the same time.
there was a drive in the fourth quarter, Vince, where I looked down and I counted. I think there was 6 or 7 freshmen or sophomore on the field on defense.
Yeah.
It was Leonard. It was Bryce Young. It was Logan Thomas. It was Kingston. It was Drake Bowen. It was Leonard Moore. There was Adon Schuler, and I think there was one. There were 6. I think maybe 6. And you're like, dude, they're out there, you know. They're giving us some plays and this is today. You saw exactly why Sean and I used to get so annoyed with Brian Kelly when he would never play talented young players, because you know what? Drake Bowen made mistakes today. He did. Kingston Viliama made mistakes today. Got beat up the seam. Leonard Moore made a couple mistakes today, or got beat once or twice today. And Adon Schuler had some mistakes today. But the thing about when you put kids that good on the field, they're going to make mistakes. But you know, they did way more than they made way more. And this is what we talked about preseason. Those kids are going to make, when we talk about the linebackers, guys, they're going to have mistakes. Don't lose your mind every time Drake Bowen has a bad run fit or Kingston gets beat up the seam. It's going to happen. They're young. But good Lord, enjoy the big time plays they're going to make. And the success is going to be weighed by how much does it balance. You know, like, do the mistakes balance out the big plays, or do the big plays far outweigh the negatives? And that's what we've seen for the most part from these linebackers. I think probably Northern Illinois was the one exception. But like today, guys, yeah, they made some mistakes, but those kids they made some plays. I mean, you're trying to run a 4th and 2 quick toss, and Kingston doesn't make the play, but he slows the guy down enough to let Xavier and Drake fly to the ball and hit the guy and stick him right before he gets the first down marker. Like, there was a play where they had a running back in space, and I'm like, uh-oh. And Jaden Osbury just brings him down in space. I'm like, all right, there we go.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So you think about it,
it was
guys,
like a short little dump off, right?
Yeah. They played this game against one of the best offenses in the country, against one of the best offensive minds in the country, without a starting corner, without their starting Viper. Then in the first half, they lost their next Viper, without their best defensive end, because Viper one side, the other side, Burnham's not on the other side. And did I say you didn't have Christian Gray either? Mm-hmm. And then at one point in time, Benjamin Morrison gets knocked out, and Jaden Mickey is not on the team, right? Mm-hmm. So you've lost 2 of your top 3 corners from a week ago, and you just kept that team in check. So my opinion of like the frustration of watching it live, as I've thought through it, you're like, man, like, was actually a pretty darn good coaching job today by this staff. And I was very pleased with it. Again, a lot to clean up, some things I don't like. We'll talk about those upon further review tomorrow, Vince. But overall, I thought it was a game plan. I thought, man, they're just being a little bit like soft up the middle. And I don't mean soft as in like they weren't playing hard, but soft as in like they were given bubbles. You know, soft from a coaching standpoint. Yeah. Like, hey, we're looking for the soft spot in the defense from an alignment or a leverage standpoint that we're going to run at, right? So it's not like soft, like, oh, that guy's soft, he doesn't play hard. So that was kind of my take on the and then at some point in time, guys, you just got to say, we got better players than they do. And, you know, they're going to make a couple plays here and there, and they did. Corey Brooks made a couple big-time plays, but Benjamin Morrison locked him down at times. Leonard Moore locked him down. Hey, he beat Leonard for a touchdown. There's a lot of plays during that game where Leonard shut him down. You know, that's going to happen when you're playing really talented players. But Notre Dame's defense made more big plays. And some of the success was just like, good God, Tyler Shuck threw some dimes.
Yeah. And had some really good catches on the other end, too.
Yes.
I mean, one-handed grab.
Yes.
And those were all catches, by the way. There was no, like, those were legit catches.
Yeah, that was legit, yeah.
Man, they were good catches.
Agreed.
Holy cow.
Well, I think that's one thing.
That's my sorry, go ahead, Trevor.
No, you're good. I mean, no, you're okay. That's one of the things that, and Sean brought it up earlier as well. That's one thing I think we all have to remember, like as a fan base, is when you go up against really talented players, they're just going to make plays. That happens when you go up against a really good team. I know a lot of people err on the side of Notre Dame has a fantastic defense and they've allowed 3 offensive touchdowns through 4 games. And it's like, well, level of competition plays a factor into that, 1. And 2, Ja'Cory Brooks is a really good wide receiver that was at Alabama. Tyler Shuck is going into his 7th year. He turned 25 today. You know, I mean, Isaac Brown is a speedster. Colin Lacey is a baller. Like that's just going to happen when you play good teams.
Trevor, real quick on that. Let me just add this, and you please go right back to where you were. They didn't even have Colin Lacey in the last 3 games.
Yeah.
And he might be their best receiver. He's not their most dynamic athlete. That's Corey Brooks. But as far as like how to play, go ask Oklahoma State last year how good Colin Lacey is, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't even – so they had no film on how they were going to use him today, which also factored in. Please continue. I just wanted to make that little note. Like he wasn't even – when they were averaging 500 yards a game the first 3 games, they didn't even have Colin Lacey. This was his first game back.
No, it's wild. And I think that's just one of the things that I think I get wrapped up in it too. Because Brian, I'm glad you kind of put it into words, because I was feeling similar to how you were. I knew the defense played well, but it didn't feel like it, but it also did feel like it. So it was an interesting game. I know. And if you would have told me at the start of the game that Notre Dame doesn't convert well on 3rd down and they lose time of possession and they get out rushed, I would have asked how much Louisville won by, if I'm just being 100% honest. And the game didn't play out that way. And I think there is a factor of our guys are just better than your guys. And it's nice to say that when we're talking about the athletes that Louisville has. It's not my guys are better than your guys because you're Miami of Ohio. It's nice.
It's like watching a prize fighter that's undefeated and he finally goes up against another champion and he dominates all his fights up to that point, right? Either knocks the guy out or wins every round. And then he finally faces another good boxer that wins 4 or 5 rounds off of him and he wins a split decision. You come away more impressed. Like, yo, I saw what you did leading up to this, knocking everybody out, but I'm more impressed with you tonight because you showed that you were a champion against a champion. And that's what this Notre Dame defense did against a championship quality play caller in offense. I mean, Shuck is not, he's not a first round. But Jeff Brom is he believes in himself so much. He says, all I need is a veteran quarterback that's not going to turn the ball over. If I get me a quarterback I can trust that doesn't turn the ball over, we'll put points on the board.
Right? Sean, his one pick today was not on him. That
literally was a drop pass.
Great play by Xavier
It's a
White.
great play. Yeah. So that just goes to show like what they were going up against. And like Brian said, for Al Golden to say, look, I'm going to force you to do what you don't want to do. Right. And I think Notre Dame jumping out to that lead kind of, I said this during the week. I said, you want to take Jeff Brom off script. And the way you do that is by jumping out to a lead and making him go to other things to make sure that things don't get away from him on the road. And you kind of did that. And I think the second half performance by the defensive line and the linebackers, especially against the run, was fantastic. This was just a game where defensively you keep them behind the sticks, right? And offensively you want to stay ahead of the sticks. And I think the Notre Dame defense did a really good job of putting them in situations where, okay, now it's 3rd and 4, it's 3rd and 5, it's 3rd and 7. Now we can bring the heat. Now we can do what we really want to do. And the man-to-man coverage, for the most part, the man-to-man coverage was absolutely fantastic today defensively. It really was. Like you said, Shuck just threw some dimes, and the wide receivers made some plays. That's it. You tip your cap. Hey, man, good play. There's really nothing else I can do on that. And if it took 3 3/4 of a quarter of a game for Leonard Moore to get beat like that in his first start, I'm happy with that.
He held his own.
I can rock with that.
He held his own against a really good receiving core today.
Yeah.
I think outside of that play, I actually thought he played a little better than Benjamin Morrison did today, to be completely honest with you.
I agree.
That's fair. Yeah.
I agrage.
He's physical too. He likes to
Sean,
tackle.
we saw that on film. That on film. Like the thing that surprised me is that was just how confident he played technically. I think that's a credit to Mike Mickens as well. I mean, just his ability to get freshman corners ready. But like we talked about it on film. I mean, when he was coming out, there's a couple things. He was physical at 6'2", even though he was skinny, and people underestimated how fast he was. That's right. Like this kid's long speed. You can see it when he was a punt returner and a receiver in high school. This kid has long speed. And you saw it on that play. I was like, who the heck is that?
Right.
Because I'm like, at first, I'm like, Vincent, I'm like, he's gone. Chuck is gone because Xavier Watts couldn't catch him. It didn't look like he was going to, maybe. And then all of a sudden, I see this tall, skinny kid in green just flying up the field. I'm like, oh, Chuck's about to get ripped. And then he comes up behind him because, Vince, you said it there. It's like he was protecting the ball from Xavier.
Yes,
he had no clue
idea.
Leonard Moore was coming up from behind him. And that's coaching, by the way. Notre Dame practice. Sean, you and I and Vince, we've been at practices where they practice coming up behind and punching that ball out like that. And just again, it wasn't always sexy, but when you're playing a team like this, it's not about the aesthetic. It's about the W. And you made enough stops in this game. I mean, Louisville had 395 yards. That's a little bit misleading because they had minus 42 on a punt that sailed over the guy's head because Notre Dame also got that. Louisville had 2 short field touchdowns, and Notre Dame had 1, correct? Because the one fumble that Notre Dame still started on in their own territory on the Leonard Moore fumble. They stripped him past the 50-yard line. So, I mean, you gave up, 430 some yards, only 5. They ran 76 plays. You forced 2 fumbles, and 1 was on special teams, correct? Or no, they had 2 lost fumbles, right? And I believe Notre Dame forced both of them, correct?
Talking about Louisville?
I'm trying to remember the second fumble. Yes. Louisville lost 2 fumbles.
There was the one that they didn't recover. It was
they had 3 hit the ground, and then they recovered 2 of them.
Yes,
right.
They recovered 2 of them.
And I remember the one obviously early. What's the other fumble that I'm trying to remember? The other fumble that they had. For the life of me, I cannot remember that play. But
because Drake Bowen calls one
right
that they did recover. The Leonard Moore's.
They might be counting that botch snap as a fumble because the punter recovered it, and then Jordan Faison came in and his helmet hit the fumble.
Okay, yeah. There you go. That's the second one, and then they had the interception. Mm-hmm. So your defense forced 2 turnovers. You made them run a lot of plays. Your third down defense, you finished 7 of 17, but they got a several third downs late in the game on that final drive when Notre Dame was out of their base defense. For a while, they were keeping them in check. They went 1 of 5 on 4th down. That is a huge part of this game. Huge part of this game. 1 of 5 on 4th down. And, and again, I just thought Notre Dame was very harassing on defense for most of the game as well. So, they got some plays, but then you got some negatives. Saw a lot of different guys making plays in this game defensively. Just overall, guys, look, Al Golden's going to be sitting in his office tonight like, man, we needed to do this differently. We needed to do that differently. That's what good coaches do. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to be pleased with his performance because I think it was mission accomplished. It wasn't always the way you wanted to get done, but it got done the way you needed it. And I'm looking at this. Notre Dame had 48 solo tackles in this game. 7 tackles. And what I mean by that is against a team like this, Trevor, you and I talked about this week. This team is dangerous in space. And we watched against Georgia Tech. Chris Bell had 2 catches that he caught the ball less than 5 yards down the field that he turned into 80 yards worth of receptions. And they didn't let them do that today. And, 48 solo tackles in this game today. 2 forced fumbles, an interception, 9 pass breakups in this game, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 8. That's a lot of disruption. And that's what kept Louisville from really getting into a rhythm. So they would move the ball, but they couldn't finish because Notre Dame was able to go out and make enough plays. And so overall, it's a successful performance. And the thing is, they did it not at their best. And I'm not even talking about injuries. There were guys that I don't think anyone necessarily played, oh my gosh, that guy had the best game of his career outside of a couple young guys that have only had they
haven't many options. Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, saying Drake Bowen had the best game of his career is different than saying like Xavier Watts did or Jack Kaiser did or Riley Mills did or Howard Cross did, right? But like you just nobody I thought played lights out. Oh wow, that's just but it just as a team, you just and The one thing that pissed me off in this game, Jordan Clark, you almost ruined a great game overall because of just what are you thinking? He's lucky he didn't get ejected. Like, Did you guys see that when he leaned into the guy, headbutted the guy? He should have been ejected, to be honest.
Yeah, he should have been ejected.
And Notre Dame would have been screwed. Like, just what a silly, immature play from a guy that otherwise, and this is what sucks because outside of that, Jordan Clark was really good in this game, guys.
Really good. And to be thrown into playing corner,
yes,
kind of when it was really nut cutting time like that, and to play fairly well at that position because they went at him a couple times. It was very, very impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's unfortunate that one play can kind of cloud the kind of game that he had, but that was a real boneheaded play, man.
They were backed up like at their own 8-yard line. It was like 2nd and 8. And then something like that. And the defense was starting to kind of get into a rhythm of stopping Louisville. And, but like you're going to look at the film and you're going to rip his behind for that. And,
sure.
And then you move on. You move on.
Oh, and Marcus ripped him in the moment.
Yes.
He didn't take him out of the game because he didn't really have any options at that point. But he covered his mouth and was yelling at him so the cameras couldn't see what he was saying.
There were some things. We've heard Marcus Freeman go on some tirades. That was probably not a pleasant conversation, but he deserved it. And you're a 6-year senior. You were a captain at Arizona State last year. You know better. And trust me, no one's more pissed at Jordan Clark, in my opinion, than Jordan Clark. He's gonna look back and go, an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, could have cost
you. Hope he will. And I don't think you become a captain if you don't think that about yourself. But just sometimes, guys, we've all done it in sports. You lose your head. You know what I mean? Like, and he did. I will say this. If I was covering Louisville, one of the biggest beefs I would have, and this is my only other play calling mistake, when you look out there and you see number 1 and number 15 at cornerback, even if it's for a play, you're throwing at number 1 at corner. That's where the spotters up top got to say, because Jordan Clark was on the opposite side of the Louisville bench. I don't know that the guys on the bench saw that. That's why that's what the coach is up. Hey, coach, like Morrison's out. They put Jordan. They
out.
Put 1 at. You know what I mean? Like, 20's out, 1's in. Like, and you got to take that shot. And I remember ripping Brian Kelly and Tommy Reese for that in 2019 at Georgia when they started that game with Tyree. Cleveland was out, and then the other kid got what's his name? Eric. I forget the other corner's name, but he got knocked out in the first drive. Eric Stokes got knocked out by Liam Eichenberg on the first drive, and they didn't throw a deep ball to Chase Claypool till the 4th quarter. He caught it, but it also shows like how deep this team is, and hats off to Marcus Freeman and Chad Bowden and that Notre Dame defensive staff because, we talked about one of the things we said preseason, we're going to find out how good of a recruiting staff this is by how this season goes, and we're still learning a lot about these coaches. Can they prepare consistently? Like, I told a friend of mine the other day, I said, he's like, are you worried about Marcus Freeman's not going to win at Notre Dame? I said, well, it means it depends on what you mean by win. We don't know if Marcus Freeman is a championship coach or not yet. There's no way you can argue that. And he's got a lot to prove. But they're going to be a 10-win team regularly if for no other reason than this team is just going to be really talented.
Yeah,
because you're just looking at the hit rate and you're like, that's a hit. Already that's a hit. That's a hit. That's a hit. That's a hit. And, and they needed every bit of that today.
Sure.
Every bit of that today. And so, I thought defense did what they needed to do today. And when you're playing a team like this and you're shorthanded, the job is to get stops. Mm-hmm. And they got a lot of stops.
I just want to, since our offensive side went a little bit longer, I want to tack on the special teams to the defensive side here before we jump into Brian's thoughts on the offense. Thoughts on the special teams, guys. A couple of things for me. I felt like the punting kind of regressed a little bit from last week. I don't know why they have him rolling out again. I thought they would have figured that out. And then very specific. I mean, the one ended up working out okay. It was a line drive, ended up being like a 45-yard punt, flip the field. My biggest beef was when Notre Dame punted the football after a not great offensive drive at the end of the game, right? They had to punt it. This was an opportunity to flip the field. Just, hey, Rendell, just kick it as far as you can. Even if it goes into the end zone, they're getting it at the 20. I don't even care, right? But he kind of pooches it, goes off to the side, kind of short legs it again, and gives them the ball at the minus 45. So you're giving them the ball in really good field position down by 1 score.
Yeah.
I did not like that at all. Dude, just launch it. Kick it as far as you can. And if they have to go 80, perfect. If it's inside the 20, even better. But getting the ball on the 45, on the minus 45, was not good. Was just not good from a special team standpoint. And then, of course, you can't fumble that football to open the game. That's obvious.
Second week in a row, Vince.
Yeah.
Second week in a row that the Notre Dame special teams has given an opponent a possession inside the 20-yard line with a turnover.
Correct.
Second week in a row.
Can't do that.
And the only reason they were able to give it back was because of a mistake by Louisville. It's not like Notre Dame forced that play. That was a mistake it's like they came off and blocked the kick. It was a bad snap. And then you did a great job of recovering, hustling and getting down there and all that. But there's a lot going wrong right now with special teams. I'll say one thing they are pretty good at is their coverage units.
Yeah,
are really good. That's what's so frustrating, the punting thing, because like your coverage units are actually freaking fast and just Louisville. It's like there was one play where like he's got a little bit of a bubble there, and by the time he got to the 15, it was gone. Yeah. I mean, I was like, when a guy catches it as a coach, you're like, looking, okay, where's the crease? And I'm like, dude, there's a crease there, and then like that, it was gone. Like 3 dudes just ran through it.
Yeah,
and you're like, you even more reason to trust your coverage units, because it's actually all that talent we talk about. That's who's running down on your coverage units. So I just felt like that doesn't match what they're trying to do with the punter. It's weird. It doesn't make sense.
It's very weird.
Yeah,
it's very weird.
And the portal pickups have been hit or miss so far this year. But whenever Mitch Jeter's been put in a situation that's normal, meaning like you're not putting him in a position to kick a 62 freaking yard field goal, he's money. And he didn't even get all of the 48-yarder today, or the 46-yarder today. He didn't get all of it.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
He still hit it right pretty much down the middle. But he's been money. Coverage units were pretty good. But there's just a lot of weirdness going on with special team. I mean, the turnovers just brutal.
Can't
and
do that,
I love
man.
Devin Ford, great kid, but he's had too many of these type of mistakes. Fumbles and missed blocks and things like that. Like, he's got to step up and play better.
Well,
but
I think he got Wally pipped anyway, because that Huerman kid,
Perlman,
I kind of like him returning the football.
Yeah,
he's kind of
guts.
Yeah,
he's
man,
athletic.
He's fearless, and he can kind of make some guys miss, and he's not afraid back there. I like him back there as kind of the number 2 kick return guy and the punt returner for that matter. And with Jordan Faison, I like Jordan Faison as a punt returner. I do, but he's been kind of injury prone this year. And if you want to use him offensively and you've got a guy like this that can return punts, then I'm okay with him being there and saving Jordan for offense. I really am. To save him from injury as well. So they may have found something in this kid.
Just real quick, too, I've had some people ask this. Why wasn't Jaden Harrison returning the opening kickoff? Why was Devin Ford? Jaden Harrison was there. They line drived it to the up back.
Yeah,
and Devin Ford's the up back. And that's why he was there. So all good. I mean, it's watching on TV. It was such a line drive. I don't know if you guys saw Jaden Harrison, the way that was kicked. So I'm just making sure that people saw that. But yeah, overall, the special teams, I thought Vince was just, again, it's the great loose emoji. And everybody knows what I'm going to say. He had the best way to describe the keys to success for special teams, and it was do no harm. And unfortunately, the special teams has had way too much harm.
Yeah,
that it's given up in the last couple weeks.
Look, it could have been the difference in this game.
Yeah,
you go down and you give up any kind of advantage you had by getting the football first. Number one, and letting them score, right off the top. And Louisville's going to get the ball at the beginning of the second half now as well. And so it's a huge turning point in this game. Luckily, the offense had put together one heck of a
great
75-yard drive,
great drive.
We'll rotate into your thoughts on offense here in just a second, Brian, but you can't – what are you laughing at over there?
Sorry. Kalen DeBoer's trying to rub it in on Georgia. It didn't work, but he's trying to rub it in.
Fair enough.
They just ran a flea flicker reverse throwback up 30-7. Lord.
Jeez.
That's giving Kirby one of these.
But you can't.
Sorry, man.
The special teams cannot hurt you like that. Mm-hmm. And it could come back to haunt you in a game moving forward. And I honestly thought there was a chance that might have hurt them today. I mean, going down 7-0, not really knowing what the offense was going to bring, today in a big game. I was pretty nervous after that first touchdown. So that's going to do it for our talk on the what?
Who won the coin toss?
Louisville. They won and deferred.
Okay.
Yeah, deferred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Real quick, your offense scored. Talk about. We'll do this. The keys to victory is your offense. Notre Dame's offense scored on each of its first 3 possessions. If you don't give up that fumble, it's 21-0 and the game's over.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah. Yep, completely agree. So that's going to do it for our defensive / special teams talk. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends. And then also make sure you jump on the boards.irishbreakdown.com, because the conversation will continue over there. And there will also be breakdowns coming. There will be forthcoming in the next 48 hours or so. So make sure you check all that out. Final segment of the night, gentlemen. Since Brian has joined us, he kind of gave us his defensive thoughts since we were kind of in the defensive segment when he joined us, but he hasn't had a chance to give us his offensive thoughts, and so we definitely want to hear those, and then we will jump into the Super Chat. So a friendly reminder, if you want to get your question in or a statement or whatever, it's the post-game show, and in order to do that, you've got to throw us a Super Chat, and we will make sure that gets done. So without further ado, Brian, thoughts on the Notre Dame offense today in the 31-24 win?
Can I go big picture first and then give my offense? Is that okay? Are you guys good with that?
It's your thing, baby. It's your world. We're living in it.
Guys, feel free to interject if you if you talked about it or if you have some thoughts, please feel free to interject, because I don't want to just rant and then you guys are all just sitting there bored and listening, because I missed that back and forth from that. You guys did a great job while I was over there working. But first of all, big picture, this is a really good win, right? There's this thing that we need to, as fans, when you're evaluating a team, you try not to overhype certain teams, right? Like, you don't want to spin it like, hey, you just beat Bama, that's not who this was, but this was a really good football team, a talented football team. And you went out there, did not play a perfect game, by far, far from playing a perfect game. But the reason that you won this game is really several aspects of it. Is obviously you've got talent, and yes, they're talented, but you're even more talented. They made some mistakes and you capitalized. You made some mistakes, they capitalized. There was a lot of back and forth, but this team emotionally and physically came to play today for Notre Dame, and that's the thing we don't always know if they're going to do. Is last year against Louisville, they got punked, really, if we're going to be honest about it. And Notre Dame played like a team that remembered that, but they didn't allow it to turn into a where they came in undisciplined to the degree that it was the big mistakes. Like, there was one point in time where Marcus Freeman goes, "We're so effing undisciplined," when they had another penalty on offense. And that part is true. But what I mean undisciplined is where you play out of control. You know what I mean? Where you come in and you're just, I want to prove something. I'm going to, lay a big hit and get called for targeting because I'm trying to lay this guy out because I'm mad about last year, or I'm so ramped up that I try to go make a play and then I end up making a big mistake, where you can kind of overthink the payback aspect. This was a team that had something to prove today. And if you're a coach at Notre Dame, you're going to in the film room, you're going to be like, "You're good, Lord. We got to clean that up. We got to do better here. We got to do better there." But looking at it, this team got out physicaled by Louisville last year. There's some Louisville fan in the chat or responding to one thing. He's like, "You guys keep making excuses for last year. Louisville just out-coached and outplayed y'all." And I'm like, yeah, we've literally been saying that for a freaking year. What are you talking about? I know you don't know how to handle success because you're a Louisville fan. I'm sorry, that wasn't nice because we've had some really good some Louisville fans like Anthony Eason and other people in here. But like it just was like, that's what happened to Notre Dame. They got out coached, they got out physicaled, they got out toughed. And today, none of those things happened. Like there were some frustrations I had, and we'll see this on offense and different things. But you came out and went toe to toe with that team, and you were the more physical team today. You had the biggest hits today. You made even the biggest plays today. You made more big plays than they made, and you got your sort of your payback, so to speak, against an even better version of what that team was from last year in Louisville. And that's something to look on and say, that's a building block. And you didn't even, I would say Notre Dame kind of had their B- game today overall and still beat the number 15 team in the country in a game where they trailed for one drive. And that didn't last long, So I was happy with the win. It wasn't always pretty, but I don't care. Win. And we talked about this during the week, guys. In the game like this, I said, I think I even said this, Trevor, in our thing. I don't care if it's 13-10 or 50-7. I don't care. Just you got to get out of this game and go into the bye week with a win. That's the big thing. Go into this bye week with a win. You need that momentum. Now you can kind of reevaluate, okay, where does some changes need? Because there are definitely some changes that need to be made. And now you get a chance to spend even more time with self-scouting than you normally do in a week. And hopefully you can figure those things out. But you went out and fought your butts off. Like what was so frustrating about Northern Illinois? It wasn't giving up the 83-yard seam route. It wasn't the bad read where they ran a wheel route. It wasn't the interceptions by Riley Leonard. It was that you didn't fight. You didn't battle. You didn't fight. You got beat up on your own field. They played a much more talented team today and fought like crazy. And so, yes, you can clean – Vince, you nailed it. You can clean up that other stuff, right? There's a lot to clean up. But you can't teach heart. You can't teach toughness. And today, we saw that from this football team. And there's a lot to praise about the younger players at Notre Dame, but I saw a lot of veterans playing their butts off. Did you guys see Pat Coogan's reaction after they scored that first or second touchdown?
First.
He almost punched somebody on his own team. He's
great.
Like, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad nobody's face was right by that because that would have been a knockout.
But that was the first time we've seen that kind of energy from an offensive lineman. You know what I mean? And, I'm not
TV,
necessarily
go look at the run that Riley Leonard
Yes.
had at the end of the game last week. You're starting to see that Emil Wagner was pumping his fist like he was hurling. Coogan was fired up. Now, the line didn't play great in the second half. I think they got whooped a little bit, but they battled. That's the whole thing, guys. They battled, and I thought the defense didn't always make plays. They got beat at times, but they battled. Special teams made some big mistakes, but you know what the special teams also did? They played hard. The mistakes today, guys, were not from a lack of effort. I've said this a million times. If you're going to screw up 100 miles an hour. Notre Dame completely blows a read zone play. Blows it. Like, I don't know if you could teach them to not play that, to play that worse. Like, I don't know that you can say, hey, we're gonna purposely blow this play, and it would have maybe looked just like that. But you know what you saw? Freaking hustle. And that big play turns into you got the ball back. And that's what I loved from this team today. Now, the question is going to be, can you bring this more consistently? But that's for next week. For today, I'm going to enjoy that they brought it today. And that's why right now Notre Dame is 4-1 and now winners of 3 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
And half of their wins this year are over top 25 football teams. I'm going to take that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that. And overall, big picture, that was my takeaway from the game, fellas. And I know that's kind of, you guys talked a lot about that stuff, I'm sure, at the beginning.
I love it.
But that was my takeaway there, Vince. Now, offensively, the first drive of the game, I thought they're going to score 50.
That's poetry.
I mean, it was a thing of beauty. You're physical. You're pushing them off the line. You're going tempo. You're using motions and shifts and mixing up personnel. And I'm looking at it, and it's like, you come out and you run a tunnel screen, quarterback power. You run a play-action pass that ends up going for 19 yards to Jaden Greathouse. And if it was better pass pro by Mitchell Evans, who I'm going to have some words about here in a second, That's a bigger play because Jaden was what we've been begging. Give me an over route. Give me something, give me something across. And it was wide open. And Riley did a great job of seeing it, stepping up. And again, you want to talk about, is Riley perfect? No. Does he have a lot to improve upon? Yes. But what was the beef that people had 2 weeks ago against Purdue? Dude, when you're scrambling around, get your freaking eyes up. Well, today he did that. And the result was there. He can't read it. He can't go past his first read. Well, I promise you, Jaden Greathouse was not his number one read on the touchdown pass. But you saw them with tempo. They had Louisville on their heels. And then they come out the second series. They get the ball on their second series, and they go quarterback power, outside zone. I think it was outside zone. Jadarian Price goes for 16 yards. 2 plays later, you run a all verts. I love the play call because they got him in a trio formation. So 3 receivers to the right, tight end to the backside. And in that look, you're going to get a lot of single high. And so what they did with the tight end is they ran him on a deep out cut to take the corner out to make sure the corner couldn't play the backside seam. And so then Riley's read is simple. I'm reading the free safety. And he took Bo, and so then Riley went back and hit Jaden Greathouse on the seam route. I mean, it was phenomenal. And then you come out the next series, and I think it was like a 1-play drive. You're in quarterback power for a touchdown, and you're just like, dude, this is great. They came out, they fumbled the ball on their next series, and I thought that got in their head. As coaches, I thought that got in their head. It was the first non-scoring drive of the game, and I thought they flinched a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you.
We can't turn it over again. We got to protect the lead.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought the next series, I believe, was when Riley fell on the ball and then had that guy hit him, and it was a late hit. That was a bad no call. I thought there was 2 huge, really bad calls in that game. And I felt like the offense lost all of its momentum. And like second half of the game, I felt like they were kind of like, look, we've got a 10-point lead. We've got a great defense. Let's not make a mistake to allow Louisville to get back in the game. Which to a degree, I don't necessarily have a big problem with because your offensive line and your tight ends were giving your quarterback no time to throw. No time to throw. Like, we're going to talk about this week. Changes have to be made up front, especially on the left side. And your quarterback clearly doesn't feel comfortable in the pocket. And I mean, there's quick game throws, fellas, where he's catching and throwing and getting drilled in quick game up the middle. And that was frustrating, obviously, to see. And I felt like there was no faith in the ability to protect the quarterback or to be able to get the ball downfield. And the quarterback lost faith in his line, which is on him, right? Like, when they get you, you got to deal with it. When they don't get you, you got to be more comfortable. But I really felt like they were just like, we're not going to make a mistake. But there was a couple things that Denbrock had in his back pocket when they needed a play. They went and did it, and we saw that on that touchdown drive that put the game away. But I was kind of frustrated by that because I felt like you're not going to throw as much right now. I understand that. But just constantly running right into the teeth of the best part of their defense also didn't seem like a great strategy. So, okay, you guys want to run the ball, take time off the clock, cool. Give me motions, give me shifts. Jardarian's been punished enough. Get him back in the freaking game. Go 21 personnel and give me some backfield motions. Give me some stuff that gets the eyes of the defenders working this way, and still keep running the ball, but just don't run quarterback powered inside zone every freaking play. Give them some eye candy to deal with. Do something. Like, you're doing this 4th and 3 play, and it's like, okay, I mean, I understand you got your last 4th down with Riley. This is a little bit of a different deal. They know it. I mean, you got anything more creative? Like, a little pop pass, maybe a reverse. I mean, there were things they could have done where they went 12 personnel and they brought Bo Collins in a wing. They could have literally ran an inside zone fake and flipped that ball to Bo Collins, and he would have been out the gate. Like, that's where I got frustrated with the lack of creativity. Like, I get it. You guys got to run the ball. You got to get out of this game with a W. Your O-line's not protecting the quarterback. I think Riley's ribs were jacked up. You even saw it on the throw to Jaden Harrison late in the game where he just couldn't get a lot on that. Okay, I get it. This is now the second time your quarterback's gotten hurt, or a little banged up, and it's completely altered your offense. You need a Riley isn't himself. game plan that you go to, or the O-line can't pass pro game plan that says, yeah, we're going to run the ball. But guys, running the ball and being quote unquote conservative doesn't mean you just got to line up and run inside zone and quarterback power all day. There's a lot of different things you can do with motions and shifts and jets and things like that to try to create some room for your guys to work with. And, I thought that stuff was a little frustrating, to be honest with you. I understand why they got conservative, and I don't even actually have a problem with it. I didn't like the manner in which they executed that conservatism. Do you guys have, I didn't get a chance to hear you guys talk about that. Like, am I missing something here, guys? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that part of it?
No, I know Trevor pointed it out, and one of my points when I added to what Trevor said when he talked about being more creative in the run game and start running the same run play, I talked about the difficulty and the nuance that was facing them, and I talked about how the offense certainly changed after that fumble. I was like, it just seemed like right then they got very limited in their thought process and how they were approaching the defense. But then I pointed out as well, Brian, we've talked about the players, right? And when you're going up against another good team, you ask those guys or you force those guys to make plays, and Louisville made plays. Notre Dame forced Ron English out of what he wanted to do early, and give Ron English and that defense credit. They stepped up and started to make plays, right?
And they did some adjustments. They went too
high,
did some adjustments,
a little bit,
did some different things,
So, that for me, I'm jealous because I know when you guys are watching the film, I can only imagine just watching, like you said, Al Golden playing chess with Jeff Braun for 4 quarters, and then Mike Denbrock having to play, keeping those plays in his back pocket in anticipation, like, I could use this now to get us going. But, as long as we're ahead, I'll say this for a bigger moment. And he picked the perfect time to break out those plays. So I just think,
they're both on the same drive, right? It's 2 days apart, correct?
Yeah. I thought they would come back to the switch release, stacking the receivers on the 4th down play.
Every time.
I'm like, because it's man to man, absolutely. But they didn't. And Trevor, we talked about that, right? Even like, man, use jet sweeps, use other things to mess with the defense the same way they mess with your defense, in man to man. And it just seems like Mike Denbrock, he's probably going to take a nice deep breath and sip on something tonight and relax, because this 5-game stretch for him has been challenging, in my opinion, and probably has gone a lot differently than he anticipated coming out of summer camp. So now he gets a chance to sit back and really, kind of say, figure that out.
Yeah.
Hey, figure that out or else, because moving forward, this is what we're going to be doing. And it's going to be very interesting. You can't
keep running 13 into those loading boxes, Sean. There's no way you can make it through the season if you keep doing that.
And you can't ask Riley, who we've seen be injured. He gets nicked up with each game. I'm sure he's going to enjoy this week off as well and allowing his body to heal.
I'm living in the ice bath for the next 3 days, if I'm right.
Yes. But Trevor did it. Yeah, Trevor pointed that out, like the diversity that's needed in the run game. Yeah.
You got to have some answers if look, that's, you got to coach the team you have, not the team you want. And the reality is this offensive line just, and again, it's more so the left side, especially at left tackle. And the other thing too is your play calling, you're not giving your guys a lot of chances. I thought the O-line battled their butts off. Rocco got beat sometimes. He made some huge blocks other times. Go watch the first touchdown run. Rocco and Pat Coogan both had great. Vince, I rewound and was like, dude, watch this. Watch Rock. And Sam Pendleton had a great seal block. He reached inside that guy, and Rocco came off and just worked the D tackle out, and Coogan got to the second level, and they battled their butts off, and that was the biggest difference of why the offense didn't get like, even though they didn't do great in the second half, like they weren't getting their butts kicked. They had multiple drives. They had a turnover on downs. The first drive is just, you get 2 back-to-back just drive killer penalties, and they were both good calls, I thought. I know some people are like, I wasn't like Mitchell Evans, my man. This is not 2023. You have not earned the right, because you had 4 good games in a row, to act like a diva. And in the last 2 weeks, Mitchell Evans has acted like a diva. He's sloppy with his technique. His body language sucks. I don't know if he's mad he's not getting the ball enough. The block in the back today, he had a hold that he didn't get called for, that he could have got called for. And then the other hold that he did get called for, which was just so unnecessary. I mean, think about it, guys. You come out and you talk about the play calling. What they do coming out of halftime. First drive of the game, boom, now screen. And if Mitchell misses this block, it's a 6-yard gain at worst. There was no need for that hold. It was an easy hold. Like, you're a freaking senior. You've been playing since your freshman year. You know better. And then you go do that, and it just kills your team. So then you go back to 2nd and 9. Then your next play, you get a block in the back. I think that was by Chris Mitchell, a 6th-year senior. So great job, veterans. And now you're in 1st and 25. The drive is over. The drive's over. And so then you come out your next drive on offense, and you get a comeback route on a sprint out, which was a bad ball. You go inside zone. You give up a pressure on 3rd and 7. You got to throw the ball away. Your next drive number. So drive 1 is killed. Drive 2, they did a nice job. And you made drive 3, you get all the way down in midfield. It's a 12-play drive, 11-play drive. You get a false start on the drive. Yeah, and you get down to 4th and 2, and you don't make the play. I don't think they made the great call. The 4th and 1, that was the right call. Get the ball in Riley Leonard's hands. 4th and about 3, you just, and here's the thing, you just ran that same play earlier in the drive. Like, they might think, they might know that's coming. What's your counter off of that? And so you go turnover on drives on that play, and then your next series you go down and you score a touchdown. Like, so I mean, they were close in the second half to putting that game away. And I think part of this, guys, is even though I didn't love the play calling, they were still moving the ball on Louisville. They just couldn't finish, and that's where this team needs that next step. And I think the fumble and Riley getting hurt took an offense that has a very their psyche is a little fragile right now, and when things like that happen, I don't think they respond well to it. And I don't think they responded well to it today. And that's something that's going to have to be addressed. But here's the deal, fellas. As frustrated as I was by the offense, when they needed to put a drive together and get some distance between you and Louisville, they did it. And, and I loved the zip. I mean, we broke this down. That's the play they ran for Purdue that would have been a touchdown if not for the left tackle jumping, getting driven into the quarterback's chest. Ran that same play, zip motion pivot, slot fade behind it. There's confusion. He hits Jaden Harrison, and then I mean, Trev, can I get a shout out here for the touchdown? Can I get some love here on this one? Did I not call that during the week?
You sure did.
I said, look, you ran a lot of sprint out last week. You got to have something off of that where you throw it backside, tight end or something like that. They did it, and they got the touchdown on it. Yep. So you're going to need some more off of that because Louisville found answers to sprint out. They just kept slanting right in front of the guard. There's nothing Rocco Spindler's going to be able to do about that. That's just you got to have something different.
Yeah, he got bad on that one.
Yeah, there's like, I just those are some things like you got to sit back, look at what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, and say, okay, we're not great here, but okay, maybe use that to your advantage a couple times. Your left tackle's getting whooped. I'm running tunnel screens or something to the left because they're going to fall for screens to the left a lot more because they're going to be like, yeah, we beat the left tackle. We've been doing that all game.
Pinning their ears back.
Right.
Yeah.
And so give me something there. They're running a lot of twists and stunt. They're running a lot of line games, I should say, at the left side, the young guys. Okay. Spend this next 2 weeks figuring out how you can take advantage of that. If you're not going to make a personnel change, you need to make a schematic change. You got to do something where you maybe change your launch point on sprint outs. Maybe you do a half roll where you do more of a pin with a pull from your backside guard. Since now teams have figured out sprint out, maybe because a bootleg or a half roll is kind of more of a down block with a puller kind of gets out in front of Riley. He's going to take more of a deeper angle, and he's going to set up his launch point, but it's not a sprint out. Give me something like that to run some deep stuff. So they're going to have to think through some of these changes. But at the end of the day, fellas, they needed a fast start, and they absolutely got it. Louisville could never truly recover from that fast start because if it's not for that fast start, Louisville's not going for it on 4th down late in the second quarter instead of taking points because I felt like at that time they didn't think they could stop Notre Dame.
Yep.
Because they hadn't
Agreed.
yet. And that forced Jeff Brom what I thought was a mistake. Make it a one-score game. You're getting the ball to start second half. Make it a one-score game. Defense made the stop, but the offense did what they needed to do to win. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't sexy. At times it was frustrating, but they competed their butts off, and they did what they needed to do to win. And even at the end in the second half, as bad as the second half was, you had a turnover on downs, remove the ball, and then that next drive, you could have gotten your feelings on that turnover on down, Sean. You know what I mean? They could have been like, "Oh, what was us? We failed. Man, that's not good." They went right down on the next drive and made 2 big plays and scored a touchdown. So I think they're getting close. They improved last week. They improved this week. Now, hopefully, you come out of the bye week with some confidence and you say, okay, let's get healthy. Let's make some changes schematically, personnel, whatever, and let's just get this thing rolling. And one of those changes is going to have to be they're going to have to get 8 and 12 ramped up this next week, because if this is the offense you're going to run, I don't see any scenario in which 13 finishes the season healthy. They're running this kid into the ground, and partly because they have to a degree, but you need to do some things in the break. Well, we'll get into that, but you got to get those other guys ramped up. But guys, they did what they needed to do. Wasn't always pretty. I thought that the thing I was most proud of today is there were a lot of things that I want the line to do better, but watching Rocco and Coogan won some, lost some. Do you know what those 2 kids did today? They went out and fought their butts off and played with fire. There was some pride on the line with 78-50 today. And everybody knows I've been hard on Pat Coogan, and he had some misses today. I've been hard on Rocco. He had some misses today. It's going to happen against this kind of defense. But the best part of their defense was right in the middle. We talked about it all week. Them D tackles were some dudes now. And those kids fought their butts off. And after what we saw last year, I'm proud as heck of them. There's things you got to work on and get better at and all that kind of stuff. But, man, those kids fought their freaking butts off. And, sometimes you got to say, yeah, we got to get better, boys. But those kids gave me everything they got today. There's things we could have done better to get them in, but we gave them everything we can today, and that's something that I was pretty pleased by, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
That's my rant.
I love it. Rant noted. Check mark. Let's jump into the super chats, guys. Brian, do you want to bring them up? I'll read them, and we can kind of get through them. Kind of do it like we used to do.
Yeah, man.
Let's do it. Fred Lundeen, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate you very much. Way to battle. ND. Leonard, way to manage the game. Defense made the clutch plays. Shook, a.k.a. Shook, is for real at quarterback. Great win.
Shook.
Keep it rolling.
Yeah. Agree. I just want to respond. Somebody in the chat said there's way too many 3-and-outs today. Notre Dame's offense only, I think, had 2 3-and-outs today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's still too many in my book, because I don't ever like 3-and-outs, but 3-and-outs weren't. Unless you want to count the one drive where they only had one play that went for a touchdown and one play that went for a fumble. But, yeah, that wasn't in it today. Yeah, I mean, guys, man, Tyler Shook is not a future first-round pick. Sean talked about that, but he's a 25-year-old, 7th-year starter who's he is talented now.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And this is a guy that's got 400-yard games against Power 5 teams. I broke that down the other day with you, Trevor. It's a good quarterback, and there's legit dudes at receiver, and they made some plays, but, man, you battled. You made the plays when you needed to. Xavier Watts just continued to show. I mean, like, there's been a lot of veterans whose play I've been disappointed in this year. A lot of veterans. Number 0 is not among that list of veterans whose play has been disappointing. He's a better football player this year than he was last year. Overall football player than he was last year, in my opinion. And he made some plays today. And I keep waiting on teams to figure out how to beat a Don Schuler, and they haven't figured it out yet. And I'm thinking they're just not gonna. I'm saying that a little sarcastically. Like, that kid, like the hit he had, him and Kaiser had a hit, and they gave credit to Kaiser, but I thought Don had the bigger heart. Like, when he flew downhill and drilled that guy, I was like, okay, this team came to play today. And he didn't play in that game last year. It's like almost as like people said, like, that Chris Zorich moment where, like, the kid that didn't even play, like, Don was like pissed off for his, for what happened last year. He didn't play. I don't even know if he traveled. You know what I mean? Like, and you're like, okay, they came to play today. But yeah, guys, it was a great win. It was a great, gritty, hard-fought team win, and Notre Dame showed they can beat a ranked. I'm going to ask you guys this. Here's my my question to you guys. If you're to grade this performance, not the performance of the quality of the win, but of what did Notre Dame play? Did they bring their A game, A minus, B plus, B minus, C? How would you guys grade? And I'm talking about from an execution standpoint, not from a top,
Right.
but from an execution standpoint. What grade would you give Notre Dame as a whole today? I went B minus. Is how I would grade the execution performance of this team as a whole. Vince, I'll go Vince, Trevor, Sean, because I have a question. I have a comment to make after this. I'm curious what you guys would give. Honest opinions. What would you give?
I as a team,
Not
right?
just real quick.
Doing that as
Not
a
quality,
team.
not quality of the win.
Right.
Not just
how they played.
Just grading the execution of the game.
Mm-hmm. I really wish you hadn't given your grade because I was going to give a B minus, and it sounds like I'm just going to echo what you said, but that's what I was going to give. It wasn't in the C territory, but it wasn't a high B either. So I was going to go with a B minus. So that's where I'm at, B minus.
I'd give them a solid B. I think they executed well on what they were told to do. And so I have some questions about the things that they were asked to do schematically, but I think what they were asked to do, they executed at a relatively decent level on.
I'll go ahead and be that teacher and say a C plus.
Okay.
Yeah, I say that because the disappointing thing is, and I mentioned it earlier, it's a blessing that we haven't seen new issues pop up. It's pretty much some of the same issues. But it's frustrating that at this point in the season, 5 games in, it's like, are we really still doing that? And two, like you said, to watch the head coach say, literally, we're so undisciplined.
Mm-hmm.
Let you know, like, yo, dude, we go over this, we hammer this, we coach this over and over and over again. What? Sometimes that seat next to you is the best teacher. That's what we were always talking basketball. Like, you know what? If you don't do it, you'll come sit next to me. And maybe that's what needs to happen on the offensive line. Maybe that's what needs to happen in the wide receiver room. Maybe some people need to go take a seat over there on the sideline and watch and learn from a different perspective, because obviously they're not getting the picture. So C plus for me, because I just think at this point, there's certain things that this still, especially from your veterans.
Yes.
The youngsters, I expected.
2 false starts by a senior, a dumb holding penalty by a senior, preseason All-American, a block in the back by a 6th-year senior. Those were your penalties, and then a personal foul from a 6th-year senior. Those were the 5 penalties that Notre Dame had today. Correct? Had 5 penalties for 45 yards. It wasn't the young guys doing that stuff. It was your veterans doing that stuff, Sean. 2 turnovers today. A fumble by a 6th-year senior and a fumble by a junior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So B was the highest, Trevor, correct?
Yeah.
C plus was the lowest. And they beat the number 15 team in the country that we all think is a pretty good football team, who I thought played well. And they basically trailed after the first drive, tied it up, and then never trailed again. And play here, play there, it's a blowout. Like, you're getting to the point where you've got a really good football team when you can play your B minus, C plus to B game. That's the range we gave. And still go beat the number 15 team in the country. Guys, and you're missing 3 starting offensive linemen, your best blocking tight end who started multiple games, your starting Viper who was your best lineman before he got hurt, you're missing your best defensive end, you're missing your starting field corner, and you played your B to C plus game, and you beat the number 15 team in the country where you controlled the game throughout. That's when you know you got a pretty good football team. Now figure some of those things out and play your B plus game next time. Play your A minus game next time, right? And you're going to be pretty good. Like, that's my point. Talking about the quality of the win. You can beat anybody in your schedule when you play your A game. There's not a team on Notre Dame's schedule There's not but a handful of teams in the country. People talking about, oh, Notre Dame. Hey, Notre Dame's looked better in Georgia than in all but week 1, if we're being real about it, or week 2, if we're being real about it. You know what I mean? And they've definitely looked better in Georgia the last 2 weeks. I mean, Georgia's a couple plays from Kentucky away from being 2-2 right now. You know what I'm saying? And so you played a B to C plus game, and you beat the number 15 team in the country in a game you controlled, Phyllis. That's a good freaking win. Clean up a lot of stuff. Heck yeah, man. But that's a good win. And thank you, Fred, for kind of starting us off with some positivity there on the Super Chats.
Isaiah Lehman, thanks for the Super Chat. Please be okay, Boubacar.
That didn't look good, guys.
It did not look good at all.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing that didn't look good.
Yet,
he had his knee looked like it was wrapped with ice, and he was walking around after the game.
This is true.
That's the only positive takeaway, because if they definitely knew he was,
they don't usually ice it like that.
No, that's why I'm thinking it might have just been hyperextended or sprained or bruised or something. Fingers crossed on that. But like Billy Shrout, they immediately put in a thing. Ashton Craig never got off the bench. Jordan Patel, they took into the locker room. Like, it definitely didn't look good, but that's the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope, because you lose him. Oh boy. Yeah. But I'm with you, Isaiah.
Yeah, I'm with you too. Jacob Hayden, thanks for the Super Chat. Appreciate you. Oh my Lord. Jay Garrett is awful. And where was Gray?
So I don't know. Like, they said that he had some kind of injury, guys, but like, I'm watching him on the sideline. Freeman said shoulder, and I'm watching Christian go like this on the sidelines. I'm like, I was told it was a hand, and I was told he was going to play. I was told he was, fine. And they said he went out there today and couldn't go. So I don't know, freaking know, but great experience for Leonard Moore. But they're, I was told it's nothing long term. I mean, he was dressed. Like I said, go after the game. He's like pumping his arms up. So I think he's going to be fine. But it just shows you how talented his team is. You can have a kid as gifted and as good as Christian Gray has been. And then Leonard Moore steps in the game and is like, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Leonard Moore, who's been playing boundary all season so far, by the way. Let's also not forget that Leonard Moore was playing a position he hasn't really played a whole lot so far. I didn't listen to the broadcast. Did you guys? I've had a lot of people text me that Jason Garrett, like one guy's like he was like actively rooting. It felt like he was actively rooting against Notre Dame. I don't know if that's true or not, but
it's weird. And I'm not going to get on this rant too long. And I do also believe that whoever calls a game, whether it's a home game for this team, away game for another team, I think broadcasts need to be relatively neutral. I do. I don't hate the idea of it being more of a homer thing, but it's NBC. It's a national broadcasting. Like, it's not just going to be this Notre Dame hype fest for 60 minutes. I understand that, but for whatever reason, there have been little nuances throughout the start of the season, like as a whole, where it does almost feel like the broadcasters are hoping Notre Dame loses on very small things that add up over the course of a game. Like there was against Miami of Ohio, Notre Dame clearly converted handful of third downs on first down. The announcers just, he's short. What do you do here if you're Freeman? It's decision time, and they're actively moving the chain gang down the field. Like it's weird. It's really weird.
Exhibit A, the double pass interference. They literally slowed it down. Saw Lacey pulling the defender down.
Yeah.
Mentioned it and said, there's no way that should have been called the offensive pass interference. And I
seriously?
They admitted that he grabbed his jersey and pulled him down and said, I just don't see the advantage that was gained there. I said, you know what? This is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Come on, Jason Garrett. And then the review expert agreed. I said, Notre Dame needs to make a call on this. This, come on. We can't be this obvious. You can't be this obvious. Like, on our broadcast,
was it Hicks or Burmeister?
No, it was Burmeister.
Burmeister today. Yeah, it was.
Really?
Yeah.
He's usually great.
Well, Burmeister was fine. It was the color commentary today by Jason Garrett was not good. But Hicks Hicks the last couple weeks has been very like it felt almost anti Notre Dame.
There were
wild.
I forget which game it was. It was the last one. It was one last week. Hicks didn't know some of the players, and like it was like, dude, this is the only team you got, brother. Like, what are we doing here? Like, he didn't know some of the players, Brian. I was genuinely surprised at how bad it was for being a guy who's on most of Notre Dame's home games.
There's no excuse for that.
That's his homework,
I don't remember
man.
Jack Collinsworth ever not knowing the Notre Dame players.
Well, he went to school with most of them, so because he's so young.
No, I mean, but
I'm joking. I'm
right.
I'm
but
joking.
you get right. I mean,
yes.
we gave him a hard time for and again, I don't blame Jack. I think they put him in a situation where he just wasn't ready.
Oh, 100%. He wasn't ready for it.
Cut his teeth on some of those, Navy games and things like that before they moved him up there. But yeah, that's really bad.
That was just one example.
I don't need that in my life.
Yeah.
Right.
I still felt that should have been a fumble on the Morrison hit because like he hit his arm and then his wrist came forward. That to me, like that I have only ever seen that, almost always see that be called a fumble. Like there was no, like he went here and then his wrist went like that and the ball, it was clear the ball came out, like it wasn't like a hit up in the air, like it went down. I thought that should have been, like, here's my thing. It's like the Miami Virginia Tech thing last night. Whatever you called on the field, that should have been the call after the review. Same thing with that play with Miami last night. If you called it an incomplete pass at the end of the game, it should have been an incomplete pass. If you called it a touchdown at the time, it should have been a touchdown. Like that was not conclusive to me. And that would have changed the game a little bit too. But but anyway, if I'm Notre Dame, and I'm praying the ACC folds so you can do something different. Like the ACC TV contract with ESPN in 2 years goes away, or a year goes away, that ESPN backs out of that. So you can be like, we're done with this bull crap. We'll find somewhere else to play because the ACC just anyway.
Notre Dame's wine and cheese. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate you. We should call games like Fox calls Mahomes and Colorado.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
It was in reference to the commentary not being in favor of Notre Dame,
not being homerish. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was funny. They Fox Sports earlier today put out a highlight, and it was a UCF player, like on a screen pass, had a 75-yard touchdown, and it was a touchdown. But the highlight was Travis Hunter almost caught up to them. That was the caption of the. I promise you, that was the caption of the video.
Are you serious? You're not exactly. Wow.
No, I promise. It was Travis Hunter almost stops a touchdown, and it was just all about how fast he is, which he is very fast. But it was a 75-yard touchdown by UCF, and that was the takeaway of the caption. Notre Dame's wine and cheese. I'm with you.
By the way, that was a big win for Colorado today.
Yeah, it was.
Very impressive win today.
Jonathan Burns, thanks for the big super chat. Appreciate you very much. Great win. Appreciate you guys. Y'all are my post-game therapy, win or lose. Jonathan, I'm glad it's on a win. But
yes.
Especially going into a bye week.
Some good therapy right there.
Yeah, it is, man. Appreciate you, though. Thank you so much for that super chat. Zach Martin, thanks for the super chat. Number one, Endy's inability to put teams away for good is frustrating. Number two, Al and this defense deserve even more roses, but can't always rely on one side of the ball.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit because it was the defense that was giving up a lot of ground early, and the offense was
carried the day early on in the game. Yeah, for sure.
The offense getting off to the fast start allowed the defense to kind of find its way because, I mean, early on they were having some issues. I mean, let's not forget they scored in their first drive, and Notre Dame only got the ball back on the second drive because the guy got tackled from behind after a 43-yard gain on 1st and 10.
Correct.
And then the offense did what? What'd the offense do? Went right down the field and scored a touchdown.
And they got it in minus territory, by the way. Yes, it was good field position.
They were they were in their own territory. They had to get at least 2 first downs before they could get in position,
even in the field goal range.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's not like the turnovers that Notre Dame gave Louisville that were inside the 25-yard line. Apparently, my watch is trying to play a radio station. But it was a turnover, and it was good field position, but it was still in minus territory.
Right.
So they still had to put a drive together to go down there and score. That's the point. Now the third touchdown, that was different. That one was obviously different.
And how'd they get the ball in that?
That was the punt that went over the head, and they got it like inside the 5-yard line.
I was being sarcastic. Like it wasn't. The defense that set that up.
The special teams. Yes.
Correct. And the defense gave up. The defense forced a punt finally on that drive. But if I remember correctly, they got good field position. They had good coverage on the kick return, and then you gave up a 20-yard gain on the first down. So even then, you're still kind of flipping the field a little bit, where you give up that play. So the next drive, they ended up making a stop. But again, Louisville went down the field and scored. So, and then the next drive, Louisville went down the field and moved the ball, ended up having to punt. But, like, they were moving on Notre Dame early. So let's not act like this defense came out there and, carried the offense today. Defense did a pretty good job. Now, and then the one time the offense put them in a bad position, they gave up a touchdown. But I thought both phases of the game played a big role in Notre Dame winning this game today. But I thought Al Golden, like I said before, I was my tune changed the more I thought about that performance.
Yeah, which makes sense. Aiden Benami, thanks for the super chat. Another super chat by me because we continue to not put Love or Price in on third down. Only the two of them need to be on the field. Wonder what Micah Bell is thinking right now. Shaking my head.
Micah Bell didn't play running back, number one. And number two, I'm just going to disagree with this. Yes, there needs to be a time when those guys are on the field on third down. But, guys, Aeneas Williams has been pretty good on third down. He almost broke one today.
He was not a liability on third down today.
When you have a running back room as deep as Notre Dame's, play him. I think my issue is more about the fact that Devin Ford plays as much as he does. But we didn't see Devin Ford on third down, I don't believe, today.
Nope.
But
he didn't play after he fumbled.
Aeneas is doing fine on third down. There need to be times when those guys could, but I'll say it again the other day. I do not want Jeremiah Love taking snaps on third down where he's got to step up and take on a linebacker. He doesn't need that. You know what I mean? He doesn't need that in his life. Is there times where you need to put him in on third down, him or Jadarian, to get him the football? Sure, that's fine. But if you put them in the game on third down, that quick pop and draw play is not going to work because they're going to key on him.
Correct.
Which they won't do on Aeneas.
Aeneas was a shoelace away from breaking.
Oh my gosh,
thing
yes.
Because there was no safety after the second level because they were all up.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't trip up right there, he's housing it.
Yeah. I think we could have a conversation, Sean, about, do they need to find more ways to get Jeremiah Love the football? Is 12 touches enough? I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Your two stud running backs combined for 14 carries and 19 total touches. All right. I'd like to see a little bit more from them, but I don't think third down is the down and distance where I'm like begging for them to get a lot more touches. I would like to see more stuff on early downs, in my opinion.
Yeah, that goes back to the creativity, right? And the counters. Right? There should be counters to get them the ball in certain situations, especially if you're going to use, because of course, with Riley being used in the running game, that takes carries and touches away from the two running backs in certain situations. So you find other ways, especially with teams now loading the box and focusing in more on Riley Leonard. As this season goes on, teams are going to say, okay, if we can cut the head of the snake off in the running game, which is Riley Leonard, and they feel like Riley Leonard is the head of that snake in the running game, then it's like, okay, now let's really use Riley as a decoy and start bouncing some of these things outside, start running a little bit more pin and pull, like Trevor pointed out earlier, inside zone. And then, heck, even just start the play they ran. I thought it was incredible, the play they ran. It was because they were backed up after a penalty, right? Was that a penalty? They got backed up, and then
on the third long, it was that first drive when they it was 2nd and 30.
Yeah,
and he almost broke that sucker.
He almost broke the sucker. Yeah, so that is that, like Trevor pointed out perfectly earlier in the show. Like, be diverse in your running game, But I think this goes to a lot of the things that need to be answered as far as personnel. moving forward so that the trust can go. Trust needs to be reestablished with the coaches, in my opinion. And there needs to be some honest conversations in that coaches room this week. Like the players might get a little rest, but the coaches need to meet tomorrow. Like, yo, we need to talk about what really needs to happen in the wide receiver room, offensive line room, the running back room. Look, Jadari didn't play. If you could disagree with it, but that goes to show, dude, we have dudes in this room. You mess around and keep making mistakes, and you won't get your spot back if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like this isn't like the situation if Christian Gray's playing and Benjamin Morrison is in the game, Jordan Clark probably does get pulled after that mistake. And they probably do find a way. You know, it's like depending upon the situation, he probably does get pulled in that for that egregious personal foul. It was just, but you know what? The game, I can say this from the TV view. I don't know how you guys saw it in the stadium. I give a lot of credit to the refs because that was obviously a hotly contested physical football game, and both teams were chirping. They did a
lot of guys walk away.
Yeah, you could tell because both teams were chirping.
Tossed Jordan Clark if they wanted to, and I would not have been like,
yes.
Come on, you're screwing Notre Dame. I'd have been like, dude, he literally launched and had. I mean, it was almost like, hey, it's almost like if they were having a conversation where the guy was like, hey, man, what'd you think of that targeting call last night? I didn't agree with it. This is targeting. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Like, that's literally what, like, if you'd have told me that was a conversation we're having, I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's kind of what it looked like. I mean, they could have tossed him, and I wouldn't have been like, nah, you know. Sean, egregious is a great way of saying it, Sean. Like, if they would have tossed him there, I would not have been. But to your point, they showed restraint. They threw the flag. He got a talking to from them and the head football coach. Throw the flag, but don't then take it to the next level. In that regard, I thought that's a great point, Sean. I thought the official did a nice job of not letting certain things. Although there was a couple late hits early that pissed me off that didn't get called. The play where Riley Leonard got hurt, he was down and the guy landed on him with force. If that's not a 15-yard penalty, I mean, those are the kind of plays we should be protecting quarterbacks from, not some of this other bull crap that we protect quarterbacks from, you know? So that's my.
I think something else. I want to say that I think Marcus Freeman today was very fair because he gave coaches the business. He gave multiple players the business. He was very fair in how he gave out choice words today. I saw him going at coaches in situations, telling them to get it right. You know, he talked about, man, we're undisciplined. I saw him go at Luke Tallich. He got Luke Tallich coming off the field. He definitely got Jordan Clark. Probably would have snatched him based upon the situation. I saw him going at offensive lineman. Look, he's at a point where he's like, look, this is us playing this way. And I think Xavier Watts, what he said post-game, no smile. Everybody's jumping around, big win. He was like, yo, we got to clean things up. Like, he's not satisfied. We can sit here and say we felt like they played well. They know. They know because they have bigger aspirations. They know they have a long way to go to get to the team that they really feel like they have. They know that, you know, and I'm anxious, man. I think I'm more excited about this next game than I was about the first game. And that's crazy because that was an entire offseason. But now I'm like, okay, you've teased me and shown me that you can beat two pretty good teams. Now I need to see if you can turn into a great team or a very good team. And the litmus test is consistency. If the offense comes along just a little bit, that offense just needs to be consistent and do their jobs. We don't need the spectacular. Just be Dennis Rodman. Just go out there and rebound and defend to kind of give it. Just do that. and bring that. Just do your job, what you're asked each and every night. No one needs to be a superstar. Let Riley do his thing, and then let your running backs do their thing, and we're going to put up points. We're going to put up points. And if you reach 30 points with this defense, it's over. It's pretty much over. Because I don't see an offense that they're going to be facing on the schedule that's really maybe Georgia Tech, because their offensive line is pretty good. Maybe they can run the ball.
Their offense is dangerous.
And they have playmakers.
And receiver and running back.
And receiver and running
back. And they
back.
have a much more dynamic runner quarterback than.
And quarterback. So that can be sketchy. I think now this is a year where, honestly, the way they're playing right now, both of the academy games can get interesting.
Vince, what did I tell you last night?
Army looked pretty good last night.
Sean, I told Vince, I said, go ahead, Vince.
I was just going to say in the pregame show that we did that was posted last night, I said, look, Notre Dame's going to beat Louisville. I'm worried about Army and Navy.
Yeah.
Period.
That's fair. That's a good point.
I said that to Vince last night when we went to the Penn game last night. I said, look, if they win this game tomorrow, the two games I'm most concerned about moving forward is Army and Navy, because the way 100%. That Notre Dame, two reasons why. Number one, Notre Dame's their inability to stop the run, their lack of discipline for motions and shifts and weirdness. And at the offensive side of the ball, they can go through dry spells. And when you go through a couple of series where you don't get points on the board on offense against that team, you may not get the ball again in the second half. You know what I mean? So, there's some interesting things coming. I'll say this, you're the head football coach. You also have to then look in the mirror and say, why is my team, why are my veterans making, you know what I mean? Like, what are we is there something we're doing in our preparation where we're not getting these guys locked in enough? You know what I mean? That's really what it comes down to.
That's a nice way of putting it, Brian.
What's that?
You just put it really very nicely. We have to ask ourselves. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. I think it's pretty obvious. Like, some of these guys need to be taught in alternative ways. That might include some time off the field.
Yes. I'm glad you said that, because
some harsh lessons.
Some people might took that different. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, that's it is what it is. Yeah. Like I said, I don't want Jack Kaiser. I hope he's healthy. I saw him limping after the game.
Yeah, something happened to him, like I think late first quarter, and he was limping he was limping really bad. Bad coverage on the first touchdown. Bad job on that by him. Late reacting to that. But yeah, I mean, he was gritting through something. I mean, you could tell he couldn't even walk normal, much less run normal. Yeah. He didn't go back out there in the second half, which I was like, dude, why do they keep trying him out there? Like, he's going to there's something wrong with him. I'm not saying that like he's playing bad. I meant like he's hurt. I think he's hurt. And they played that whole second half with freshmen and sophomores at linebacker.
If there are players that have bad body language because they're not getting the ball, there's some youngsters that would love to go out there and block their tails off.
I had somebody, a buddy of mine who's a smart guy. He said he thinks the receivers are not running routes the way they are because they don't have faith in the quarterback. And my answer was like, well, there's no excuse for that after the first quarter today.
Correct.
None.
Yeah.
But number two, okay, cool. You want that? I think, Micah, if you were to say, hey, Cam Williams, KK Smith, Micah Gilbert, if we put you in, are you guys going to run half speed because you're upset with the quarterback, or am I going to give you go hard? I mean, okay, cool.
Just saying.
Hey, Cooper Flanagan comes back. Okay, are you guys going to run hard on routes, or are you going to piss and moan and stuff if you're not getting the ball enough? I mean, like, y'all aren't playing well enough. I mean, hey, Riley hit Bo right in the hands.
Yes.
Early in the game, drop. So –
you know what? The other one was a little bit of a harder catch, but he still dropped too.
Yeah, I mean, hit him in the hands. It was behind him. He got hit.
But
yeah,
I just didn't like. I don't
know that he could have caught that. I just wanted to see a little bit better.
Yeah, I didn't like
fight
the
back for the ball. I didn't think
I've seen enough from Bo Collins. I've seen enough from Bo Collins that I feel like he should have made that catch. I've
seen enough from Bo Collins to also say I just think he had a bad game,
and that's fair too. Look,
we all have that.
Mistakes.
We all have that. Like, Bo's played his butt off all year. He might not be the right guy to call out because Bo's played his butt off all year. I think Bo doesn't play well today.
Absolutely. And,
You know what
and
I
the
mean? But
the only call out, and I wouldn't
he's
even
not
call
my
it a call
problem.
out. Right. No, for sure. And he has had such good games leading up to this. It's more like pointing out that all the Riley Leonard is so inaccurate people. It's like if Bo Collins catches those two, he throws for 84%. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
well,
the
I
point
just say
was
he
making.
just. I'm not. I get what you're saying. I'm not going on the second one. I'm with you on the first one. The second one would have been a really tough catch. But
So
even
we're
if you just give him the one,
79%.
he's at 78.3
Yeah, there you go.
because he was 17 to 23.
Right.
On the whole. So yeah, I'm with you.
Trash. Thanks for the super chat. Crazy game. Louisville faked injuries. Still Magic left in the green jerseys.
So can I say something, guys? I am so happy. Another reason I didn't say it earlier, I should have. Another reason I'm so happy they won this game and actually played kind of well is because we can stop with the don't wear green. They never play well in green. They beat the number 15 team in the country wearing green. So we can just, put that to rest, and they did that. But I'll say this about Louisville. They definitely were faking injuries today, but at least they didn't do it as egregiously as Ole Miss did.
That was bad.
That was
the Ole Miss one was
embarrassing.
bad.
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
Very embarrassing.
Louisville in the second half, whenever Notre Dame would gain more than 10 yards, somebody mysteriously, coincidentally, was hurt. It was weird. Could have been a coincidence.
Yep.
Yeah, probably not.
Yep. Let's get to the next one. Sorry, guys.
Aiden, thank you for the super chat. The free-for-all chat is absolutely amazing. AST12321, thanks for the super chat. Love the win. Also, Salty Hater in me loves watching Notre Dame get a big ranked win while Auburn choked hard and caught another L.
Did they lose that game to Oklahoma?
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did.
Wow.
They were winning that game. 27-21 was the final score. Auburn was outscored 17. Actually, they were outscored 20-7 in the second half. So, not a great finishing team there. Yeah.
Here you go.
Joe, he's back. What's up, Joe? Thanks for the super chat. Literally can't be happier right now. Had zero faith in today's game. Go Irish. You know what, Joe? Welcome to being happy. I appreciate that out of you, buddy. Thank you.
You know what I think part of it is for people like Joe? It's not just that they won. It was nice to see them. This is the first time at home I really felt like they came out and competed really hard for 60 minutes. Sure. I think for some people, that's just all I want. Like, I wouldn't like them, but I can be frustrated that they weren't better here or better there. But you know what? Those kids played their butts off. I think that's something that people want to see more of. And today they did that.
Yeah.
They absolutely did that.
Nope. Agreed. Laura Dern's Jurassic Park shorts. Thanks for the super chat. I have a new crush. That screenplay.
Yeah, that was big. That was big.
It's just well executed. Great call in the moment. I mean, it was
He
awesome.
was saving that for just that occasion. You know what I mean? Like that.
Right.
There's just I said this in the show. I was like, you have plays like that you've kind of got in your back pocket that you're just waiting for the right time to call it, and that was the right time. I remember 2011. Remember when Al Borges said that after the Notre Dame game? He's like, we knew we had that wheel play. We were just kind of waiting on the right time, and that clock clearly was obviously the right time.
Right. Walk on, carry off. Thanks for the super chat. We're closer. Can't keep putting ourselves behind the sticks. Denbrock got too conservative after Riley came out. Line is a mess. Need a bye.
Yep. Agree on that last part for sure.
Oh,
greatly
well-timed bye.
Agree on all that, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And I don't know if it was Denbrock that got conservative, but the offense did, and he's the head of the offense.
He's the offensive coordinator, and he's the guy that decides we're going to run inside zone or quarterback power all day. He's the one that decides whether you're going to use motions and shifts and personnel things. I mean, so I don't know who else it would have been. Like, I don't think Marcus, even if Marcus Freeman said, hey, coach, let's not give them a chance to make a play to get back in this game. We're not protecting well. Let's be careful and really try to focus on running the game. There's still a lot of better ways to do that. Even if the head coach would have come in and said, hey, this is what I want. I don't want to take any chances, et cetera, et cetera. That's fine. I get that. You can maybe have a problem with that, but there's still more creative ways to accomplish that goal, even if it was dictated by the head football coach. And that's where I'm coming from on that. You know what I mean? It's I guess it's not even the running that bothered me so much. It was like, okay, you're basically just running the same 2 plays over and over and over again. You and we saw this. You show them a little something different, and you're going to break that sucker because they were keying on stuff. And they did that with the sprint out throwback, but there's some other things they could have done in the run game. Like even give me a jet motion to give their linebacker something to think about. And if you're running inside zone with a jet motion and they're still crashing, guess what? I'm coming back on the next play. Shovel. You know what I mean? Like just give me something to say, hey, coach, they're not playing this. Like I still remember, and it's one of the better moments that Tommy Reese had was I still remember that Georgia Tech game in 2020 when they went 21 personnel. They put Chris Tyree outside and put Kyron Williams at running back, and they ran stretch right at Chris Tyree's side, and he smoked a reverse. And Georgia Tech didn't respond to it at all. They lined up right in the same exact formation, went right back to that same play, and ran a reverse to Chris Tyree and ran for 20-something yards. You guys remember that back in 2020 at Georgia Tech? Like, give me some of that kind of stuff because I don't know if they're going to overreact to that or not react to that if you don't show it to me. So that's the stuff I would have liked to have seen. And again, I'm sure Coach Denbrock's frustrated because you had stuff working and then it stops working, but you just gotta be able to adjust a little bit better on the fly, in my opinion, when it comes to your run game stuff, in my opinion. So that's where I'm coming from. But yes, the big, they need a bye badly. They badly need a.
And the next one comes also like in the same month. I think doesn't hurt them either. By the way,
they get 3-game bye, 3-game bye. It's going to be
right. All in
big.
October. All in October. Miles Whitaker, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate you very much, Miles. 74% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns. Hard for anyone to argue Ryan Leonard didn't have a good, solid performance today. Very glad to see he didn't aggravate that left shoulder from that hit at the beginning of the second quarter. Can I also add he had a rushing touchdown as well? So, yeah, it's a good performance.
Yeah, I think he was focusing on the pass game. Yeah, I mean, it's getting there. It's not there yet. Like, you're not going to go beat Bama in Ohio State with the throwing game you had today, right? But, again, for the second week in a row, we saw progress.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And now at some point in time, you've got to make a big jump. Like, they're making little babies. Last week's have been baby steps. At some point in time, you need to kind of kick that door down a little bit.
Well, I think that's what we're all hoping for coming out of the bye, right? I mean,
so.
a bigger step, right? A bigger step.
But we do also need to be prepared for the fact that this is just kind of who they're going to be all year. And I hope that's not the case because that's going to limit how far this team can go.
Agreed. But here's the other thing. I think they can win the rest of their games with this type of performance. Now playoffs, different conversation. I'm not even going there. I'm saying the games we know Notre Dame is going to play, they'll at the very least be in every single one.
100%.
Zach Nichols, thanks for the super chat. How much better does this look with a healthy Christian Gray?
I don't know.
Leonard Moore played pretty well,
better
right?
Christian Gray could have. You know what I mean? Like maybe it would have been better, but I mean, look, I don't know that Christian Gray. You know what, Vince? You said something earlier, or was it Sean, that said maybe things might have been different if a guy got that 15-yard penalty and you had Christian Gray, because then maybe you could have been like, all right, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to put Christian or Leonard in the slot and maybe go from maybe. But look, you need to get Christian Gray back because he's been a dude so far this year. But Leonard Moore kind of played like a dude a little bit today as well. And they went at him. I mean, they tested Leonard Moore. And,
he was not a liability by any stretch of the imagination.
No, even that touchdown pass, he wasn't in bad. It was a great ball.
It's a good
and a great catch.
That's right.
And a great catch by Ja'Cory Brooks. I mean, I thought Benjamin Morrison had a tougher time with Ja'Cory Brooks than Leonard Moore did, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Andrew Rhodes, thanks for the super chat. Shuck might have been the best game I've seen a quarterback have against Notre Dame since Al Golden has been here. Good win.
I'm still going Caleb Williams 2022.
I was
Yeah, that was
to say.
That was
I was
pretty
just
good.
about to say Caleb Williams 22 was.
That was the gift wrap of the Heisman if he hadn't already won it.
I thought C.J. Stroud was brilliant against Notre Dame in 2022 as well.
Yep.
Like, because that defense played great against Ohio State, and he just made some throws that you're just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to tell that guy to do. Like, you know, this is a defensive back. I don't know. What do I tell that DB there? You know, Jackson Smith and Jigba got knocked out in the first game or first quarter.
Yeah.
And, like, Notre Dame gave him no room to breathe as a passer, and he just made some dimes.
Yeah.
But I would say, though, this game is up there with those, in my opinion. But I would put those two ahead of them. And they've played some good quarterbacks, fellas. I thought he played better in this game than Drake May played against him in 2022. I mean, all of Drake May's numbers came in the fourth quarter when the game was over.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. It's a good observation. He was good today. It's really good today. With pressure. He had some balls he hit today where there's guys in his face.
He didn't even have, he had no clue he threw that touchdown pass.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he had no clue. He didn't know what zip code he was in after that hit. And he got, because for whatever reason, I was watching him on the ground. He got up and he kind of like looked around like he had no idea what was going on while the rest of the team was celebrating. Like, that was a great hit. It was a great throw, man. Like, it's pretty good. That's pretty darn good. Andy Milton fan, thanks for the super chat. How much better can offense get in 2 weeks? Well, they can get healthier. That would be helpful up front because injuries and whatnot. So that would be helpful.
I mean, Sean, you talked about it, man. Just execute what you're already doing better, and it's you know what I mean. So it's not like you got to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Just execute the stuff that's there. Don't have dumb penalties. You know, you come out and hit an RPO or hit a now screen on play number 1. You get 9 yards. Don't freaking hold.
Right.
And kill the drive.
Right.
You know, like, make the right reads, make the right throws, make the right catches, protect the quarterback. I mean, just they're not that far off from being they're not going to be the explosive, what I thought they had a chance to be like a really big time offense. I don't know that they're going to get there because they're down 3 starting offensive linemen. I mean, like, Charles Jagasaw is not out there today. Like this, you want to talk about how this game would have looked different if they had Billy Schrauth, Ashton Craig, and you know what? Because I don't even want to say Billy Schrauth because I thought Rocco played his butt off. But even if, let's say they had Billy Schrauth, maybe then they moved Billy over to left guard with all the issues and Rocco starting the right guard. But you put Charles Jagasaw out there, you know, maybe Riley Leonard's a little different quarterback with that 6'7", 330-pound monster protecting his blind side. You know, so, but I don't know that they're going to be that, but they can still, I mean, we saw it against Purdue. We've seen it at stretch at times today. I mean, they just swamped Louisville in that first quarter. Now keep it going. Learn to
do
put
the whole
that pedal
game
to the metal.
Yeah. Need to see that the whole game.
You know, don't fumble that ball and just take all the air out of the stadium, you know? So.
Iden, thank you for another super chat. Was Jaden Daniels that good? Just kidding. How was the vibe / loudness at the stadium? This doesn't matter. A W is a W, but the wins just don't feel or look good.
Buddy, they beat the number freaking 15 team in the country where they led almost the entire game. I don't know. My man, I love you, Iden. I do, but if that doesn't feel good, I love you, Iden. That's almost say, man.
As far as what it was like in the stadium, it's kind of hard to tell because we are in the press box where we have little itty bitty windows up at the top that are open, so you can kind of hear the crowd. But you know, it was a normal home game. It was a better environment than the 2 MAC games. You know, no doubt about that. But yeah,
it sounded loud on the TV.
Yeah,
mind you, I always listen to games very loud because I like to feel like I'm there. But yeah, I listen to games really loud. But you know, sure. I mean, look, where I'm hanging my hat on is for the last couple of weeks, all I've heard is, you know, this might have worked against Purdue, this might have worked against Miami of Ohio, but it's not working once we get to Louisville. And Notre Dame just won 31-24. I agree with the look good part because there's areas that didn't look good today. And that is why the bye week is coming at a good time. And there's room for improvement. With the last super chat, this offense can absolutely get better, execute better at a higher level, be good to go. But feel good, we got to get back into the space as like a fan base, get back into the mode of like winning is good. Winning is a good thing. And it's okay to feel good about a win, even if it's not 50-0. So I hear you, man. I get the frustration. I really do, because we're always going to look at it at the scope of, at one point in time, Notre Dame was the 5th ranked team in the country. I hear you. I really do. I think about that all the time. But there were aspects today. In the first quarter, Notre Dame was playing like a top 5 offense in the first quarter. There's still aspects of this team that are. So I hear you on the look good part, man, but enjoy the win. Enjoy the win.
Yep. It's okay to be happy.
Yeah. Again, if this would have been last week, I'd probably be a little bit more frustrated. If you're playing Miami of Ohio and you have this kind of,
Sure.
you needed to stop at the end of the game to win it. Okay, but this was the number 15 team in the country.
And I'm telling you right now,
who kicked your butt last year.
Right, exactly. And watch this team the rest of the season, because they're going to give Clemson a run for their money. They're going to give Miami a run for their money, in my opinion. Keep an eye on Louisville. I'm not saying they're going to make it into the playoff or whatever. This is a good team. Notre Dame beat a good team, right?
We heard the same thing about A&M. They're 4-1 right now.
Right.
They just beat a 3-1 Arkansas team today.
Correct.
Right. With, I think, their backup quarterback, by the way. So.
I did. Another super chat. Thank you. That tells everyone how bad Angeli is. Much better and how much better Riley Leonard is. Let's put it to rest, everyone. 2 times Riley Leonard has been or is hurt, and they still won't put Steve in.
I don't.
Go ahead, Trevor. Go ahead.
I don't think it's a testament to how good or bad some people are. I'm going to just say that. Look, if Riley Leonard's good to go, he's going to go. I'm going to be honest with you. Look, I hear you. I get it, but I'm going to just leave it at starting quarterback for Notre Dame had 0 turnovers, 215 total yards, and 3 touchdowns. It's good. We said it on Friday. Steve is a really good backup. And I'll leave it right there.
It's a very good backup.
Very well said. Trevor Rocket, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you, Trevor. Great post-game show tonight, lads. I'm not calling it, but depending on injuries today, any potential changes on the O-line in 2 weeks against Stanford? Knapp and Pendleton trial by fire. Wagner at right tackle has been so solid.
Well, I'm curious what you guys think about this, but I would say, for me, I believe we should all just kind of go back and watch the film first before we start talking too much about that. I do know that is something that we'll discuss, because I have had games where I didn't think a guy played well live, and they went back and watched film like, you know what, like he actually played better than I thought, and they played this line, hey, this guy actually ran through because they had 3 coming at 2, you know what I mean, and that guy was not accounted for, or there's different things like that. So I always like to err on the side of, let me watch the film first when I'm talking about linemen, because I spend most of my game watching the skill, because I can go back and watch the linemen on the TV copy, and then eventually I'll get the all 22 when it gets uploaded and all that. So I want to watch the film first, but we talked about this during the week, guys. Like, depending on how this game goes, Notre Dame is going to have to think about potentially making some changes. And I don't want to talk about whether or not I'm ready to take that next step yet till I've gone back and watched the film. So, Sean, I saw you kind of react in that as well. That's my big thing. But if this film tells the same story as past film, then they are going to have some tough decisions to make. So that's my 2 cents.
Agreed. Beezer 12 washing beard. Thanks for the super chat. That's what they get for making a meme of our touchdown Jesus. God doesn't care who wins a football game, but his mother does. Go Irish and LOL at Georgia. It's a lot there, and I love all of it.
Yeah.
I love all of it.
Yeah.
They
including the Key and Peele shout out in his avatar.
The name is awesome.
Hilarious. Yeah.
He's even got it in the emoji thing or whatever.
I know. It's great.
It's fantastic.
It's great.
All right. Josh Phillips, thanks for the super chat. Early game adversaries will help them come November. Yeah, anytime that you have, tough games and you have to overcome adversity and all of those things, it makes you a better team. There's no doubt. It galvanizes you, makes you a better team. There's no doubt about that. So I agree with you, Josh. They'll remember these lessons, and hopefully they continue to build on them as they move forward and heal up over the bye week and get some things figured out and continue down that stretch.
Yeah.
Jimmy Page, thanks for the super chat. Thoughts on the last drive by Notre Dame? Great win. I mean,
last drive offensively.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what he meant.
Yeah,
it wasn't great. Obviously, it wasn't great. They're trying to run the clock. They're trying to run the ball, but the play calling, in my opinion, led something to be desired.
I mean, they basically ran the same stuff they'd been running the whole second half, and that's kind of what we talked about. Is like they were primed for something to catch them. They were primed for a jet, something low.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And those type of
they were selling out
plays. Yeah, and the thing about those type of plays too, Vince, is they tend to be longer developing, which means they take a few more seconds off the clock, and they were primed for something there, and those are the great times to catch a team. So it just was they were running the clock out. I didn't like it. And to go into the sprint out on third down, that play had no chance. I mean, you had to know, like, guys, they got third down figured out. They got sprint out figured out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we caught them on the last touchdown. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they kind of got that figured out. So, I didn't like that. That's just goes back to what we talked about. That wasn't just that drive, but that was an example of you just, unless the head coach said, "Hey, run it right up the middle 3 times in a row." You know what I mean? Right. Like that. I didn't love that. I didn't love that, and I don't think the head coach would have said that. He probably said, like, "Listen, let's not get silly here. Let's, but you just want to see him go pop one, and just do something to get them thinking."
Yep.
Just last
Miles Whitaker. Okay. Thanks for the super chat. Notre Dame isn't playing college football playoff quality right now. Neither is ND, a team with the wheels falling off. Can we agree that there's been progress and the future looks bright? The season is nowhere near to over. I think that's a great synopsis of where the team is, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
Great synopsis. It's not all in the gutter, right? I mean, everybody's the season's over. That's not true, but this is also not a number 5 seed. They're not playing like a number 5 seed, right? So I think we can all agree that the truth lies someplace in the middle, and there's plenty of time for them to get better. But hey, let's be honest, there's also time for them to get worse. Okay,
can we say something else? They're playing like they should be seated higher than Georgia.
Yeah.
Fair enough there. I tell you what.
Notre Dame's going to have 2 top 25 wins. Georgia's got 1. Georgia's a lot closer to being 2-2 than they are 4-0.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like, there's not a lot of teams playing. Like, Ohio State's playing lights out. Bama's playing lights out. Texas is playing lights out. Georgia barely beat Idaho, or Oregon barely beat Idaho and Boise State. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you don't make those decisions in September.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but no, right now, if Notre Dame's this team in November, they're probably a playoff team because they'll be probably 11-1, but they're not going to be a team that you look at that's going to do any damage in the playoffs.
Right.
That's very fair. They're going to have to get better. Not every team gets better from now until then. There's a chance they regress. There's a chance other teams regress. It's like, it's not always a static here or here. Sometimes it's here.
Yeah.
So this is a big win. You got to build on it. But this team is capable of being better, but it's not. But them being capable of it is not guaranteeing that they're going to achieve that level. So, to Miles's point, and I'll bring that up again. Like, yeah, there's been progress. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great way of putting it. This has been progress, and you're 4-1. You've got 2 wins over top 25 teams. like current top 25 teams, not they were at the time and A&M's fallen out. A&M is back in the top 25. They spent about a week out of the top 25 after Notre Dame beat them. Probably shouldn't have, but yeah.
I'm with you.
They had a really bad week. They had a really bad week in week 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't have that, but they're making progress. That's a good win today, boys.
Yeah, exactly. A good win. So that's going to do it for the post-game show, guys. In talking about Notre Dame's 31-24 win over Louisville, pushes them to 4-1 and into the bye week. And so I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us as long as you did for the post-game show. There's good football going on elsewhere as well right now, and we're glad you guys were tuned in with us, at least partly, and still watching other games, obviously, but hanging out with us as we dissected this Notre Dame win. And again, it's okay to be happy. It's okay to still enjoy being a Notre Dame fan. It's not all negative. It's okay. And we are all enjoying it. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, 7 o'clock, upon further review. Brian and I are going to dive into the film between now and then and kind of give you some thoughts on what we saw and kind of dive deeper really into the line play, a lot of that. That's what I usually do. I tend to watch the skill guys live and then line play as we go back and watch the film. So excited to kind of dive into that a little bit. And then we're into our normal week of fun, and there'll be boards.irishbreakdown.com. Brian will have some breakdowns of this game over there by Monday evening. So no afternoon show on Monday. IB Nation Sports Talk. We'll get into it Monday through Thursday. And no Marcus Freeman press conference this week. That's usually what we talk about Monday evening, but no Marcus Freeman press conference. So we'll definitely have something good for you. So make sure you tune in at 5 o'clock on Monday. So, and then of course, Lucky Lefty down there, Sean Davis and Malik. Make sure you listen to them as well. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends. Really appreciate that. Thanks for hanging with us. For Trevor, for Sean, for Brian, I'm Vince, and we will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast, everybody.